going to be a best of 7, and it is for all the marbles. Who is going to be the #1 team in Cup #4 for North America? And to be completely frank, it's kind of a victory lap for the Super Frogs. This is one of the only teams right now that has established enough dominance to know that they're going to the LAN. That's 100%. Super Frogs will be at the first LAN of the year, and they're going up against the reigning BlizzCon champions that don't have that luxury. When you're looking at the Super Frogs, they essentially want to say, okay, we're trying to make sure that we're set up for the entirety of the year. They want to try to grab that first spot, make sure that they're going to the finals for the year. But I'm excited to jump into this one. My name's Rich. I'm going to be your host, joined by Zico, Supertees, and Van Ruki. Zico, what do you actually think about the fact that Super Frogs were already able to 100% guarantee that they've done it? There's a picture of a very happy Snuts saying, finals, guaranteed spot at LAN. Let's go. And let's go, baby, is what he's trying to say. I can read between the lines. That is a very excited man. First time back in a little while here, and Zico already able to do it.
It's got to feel good for Snuts. I mean, he retired from playing competitively last year, and now he comes back with a bang. Top-seeded team in terms of points. Again, making it to the final, winning the previous cup against Method Orange as well in a nail-biter. It's good to have him back, honestly, in the competitive scene. It's great to see him do well as well, and it's fun to see which teams are starting to get those spots for the Spring LAN. It's good for North America, I think, as well, that this team is going, because honestly, I think Super Frogs right now is the best team in the region.
Yeah, potentially even the entire world, especially when you do have Chan on LAN. Like, he is just an absolute animal every time he does get into that environment. But there is one other team that does know that they are going as well. That is going to be Method Black. So already we're starting to see how crazy this LAN is going to be. Two of the teams that are already guaranteed based off of what they have done this year are just two powerhouses, and now we're going to see if Super Frogs can extend their lead even further, or if Method Orange is going to be able to get a little bit more security headed into this LAN. Let's talk about the matchups and talk about which compositions we potentially see in the blind. Well, honestly, we don't need to talk about it too much because we're getting right into it.
Rogueluck Druid, Super Frogs, DH, Windwalker, and Rest Shaman, Method Orange.
Okay, you heard it from Zico there. A little bit of a prediction. You can see that your predictions are pretty much split in the chat. 55% of you think that Method Orange are going to be able to take it, even in the face of one of the toughest teams in the entire world. And let's take a look at the compositions. This is the comp that has gotten Method Orange so far. Chan the Animal going to be on that Warlock, backed up by Wealthy Man.
Here we go. We saw this similar matchup, Cleave versus the Destruction Mage, but the Death Knight Demon Hunter is a lot less punch and much more about consistency. So I don't think that Channel will be overwhelmed the same way as we saw Swapsy in the European region. I'm curious to see how Cubsy maintains his mana. The last time we saw this from the Super Frogs, they focused on crowd control. So Polymorph Trill. If that Polymorph is dispelled, you then Polymorph him 2 more times and then fear him and really prevent Trill from connecting to Cubsy. This way you will limit the amount of mana rifts, and you will also allow Cubsy to regenerate mana and have more opportunities to drink. Although this time Trill is focusing much more so on damage, going after Wealthy Men, getting an Iron Bark exchanged early on. Cubsy is running that Feral Affinity. I think it's definitely wise to get some extra damage for his team because his composition really lacks the ability to push someone over the edge. So bringing Feral Affinity on a Restoration Druid to add some extra damage to your team can be an effective way to then deal that final blow.
Yeah, Wealthy Man, once again, he's playing that build where he has very powerful Frost Bolts with the Lonely Winter, as well as that Tunnel of Ice, Azurite trait, and Flash Freeze Azurite trait. So he's going to be very dangerous if left alone. The problem is, if you go after Wealthy Man, slow down his Frostbolt damage, then all of a sudden you have a Chanimals that's just going to be smoking you with Chaos Bolt. So definitely a great option here for Super Frogs. I think that having 2 high-threat caster targets is definitely going to be ideal against Method Orange, especially moving on into the late game.
Yeah, it was effective for them in the past with that crowd control, diminishing return, polymorph, and fear. Very effective at just pinning melee DPS down, and there's no real threat. There's no Windwalker. I think maybe at some point we need to see Trill switch to the Windwalker, and it really just depends on this match right now. If Method Orange can't manage to pull off victory here, I want to see Method Orange go back to that bread and butter we've seen before with Mez and Trill playing together on that Windwalker Death Knight. Mez gets bursted down as Chanimal really is taking this game into his own hands, getting triple fears onto Sea-Doo. No polymorph attempt by Wealthy Man just yet, getting denied on it by Sea-Doo. If any polymorph is able to be landed on him, he actually does manage to get the polymorph. Both Chanimal and Wealthy Man free casting, although again, before dampening Death Strike going to be very effective at just sustaining Mez. Still, the mana, let's see how the mana looks as Cubsy comes out of form. It's looking solid, and that's the main win condition for Method Orange. If they can't manage to develop that lead, they're going to lose out on their main win condition.
Interesting. CD's actually playing Draenei Shaman, I believe, so he's going to have a little bit more healing with that Draenei Racial. It puts a heal over time effect on the target when he needs it, so a little bit more instant cast healing that CD's opting to go with on his Restoration Shaman. Mez, is he playing Draenei as well? Or is that a Night Elf? I think it might be a Night Elf.
Kind of hard.
It's hard to see in this position.
I think it's Night Elf.
Look for the tail. Look for the tail.
They are both Night Elf to dodge the incoming Maledict's trinkets. Wealthy Man crowd controlling Trill, bursting down Mez. Lots of damage on Mez. I mean, bursts like that, another maybe 4 minutes into the game, I'm not sure if Mez really makes it out alive. So Super Frogs definitely have the potential. They just need to protect Cubsy until deeper into dampening. So far, Trill is getting some mana rifts now secured onto Cubsy. Tries to wild charge out of it, but that crowd control guarantees it will land. Trill is likely to not miss a single timing on that part. He's easily mastered that strategy of mana rift. Sidu chilling at the pillar, going for a couple healing waves. That's another win condition when facing the Shaman, is that Sidu will have to cast slow, long heals, and when facing a Warlock and a Mage, they have ranged interrupts to deny those long, slow heals. So there could be opportunity there for Super Frogs to find a kill as well.
Yeah, Wealthy Man opting to use his Icy Veins in conjunction with Chanimal's Dark Soul. Anti-Magic Zone trades very effective into both of those offensives, and I would have much rather see Super Frogs split up those offensives. I would think it makes it much more difficult with sort of a two-pronged attack where Mez has to make a hard decision. Does he use the Anti-Magic Zone on Icy Veins, or is it on the Dark Soul? And that way they at least get effectiveness out of one of those offensive cooldowns. So definitely would like to see that from Super Frogs moving forward in this matchup.
Both of these teams bringing in their most durable long-distance compositions. Deep dampening definitely going to be required against these top caliber teams in the setups that they have brought to the North American Grand Finals today. Now, of course, there's a lot more on the line for Method Orange as they are on the cusp, the bottom end of the qualifying teams for the Spring Finals, whereas the Super Frogs are already guaranteed a spot. So Sidu definitely looking for a first place performance to feel more comfortable and have a reliable chance at making it to the Spring Finals. Mez gets bursted down. Recovers though with those death strikes. Frozen Orb placed. Wealthy Man trying to dish out some pain. Really, Mez is spending a lot of runic power just on death strike, not able to really get too much pressure. Chanimal gates to safety as there was some momentum starting to develop, and that's the one thing with Chanimal, is that his positioning is always on point, knows exactly where to be at exactly every given moment in the game, and it's very important when you're playing a Warlock because you don't move really fast. So if you're standing in the wrong spot, it's going to take you a long time to get to the right spot, which is why we see him shine so much on that Warlock.
Yeah, definitely. Now all three members of Method Orange, they're going to be hiding behind the pillar, eating the Blizzard, eating the Frozen Orb, but it's just kind of insignificant damage at this point, and Method Orange should be able to easily recover as they rotate to a new pillar. Actually gripping Chanimal's and looking for a little bit of damage on him, but with this positioning, Cubsy is able to go. He sneaks away, gets a drink. He's at completely reset on his mana, back to basically 100%. We are now at 6% dampening, and I really believe that Method Orange, things are going to start getting very scary for them. If they can't get Cubsy out of mana, eventually they're not really going to be able to get too much of a lead in this matchup, especially with Chanimals and Wealthy Man just free casting in the open.
I think if Super Frogs take game one, we need to see Method Orange go back to their Windwalker Death Knight. They can't rely on this strategy because Super Frogs have brought a composition that can totally nullify it. Finally, some pressure with crowd control and Cubsy. Chanimal dips down to half, but he's also counter-aggressing despite that pressure in his face, trying to force Mez to run away, and that's sometimes an effective strategy, is just do damage. If the opposing member can't stay in your face and you force them to run away, that's just as good as trading a defensive cooldown. So Chanimal focusing a lot more on counter-aggression and really just going at Mez toe-to-toe. Now with dampening at 11%, it will become increasingly more difficult for either side to maintain themselves into the fight.
Definitely Chanimal's in midfield, still trying to get some pressure as Trill feeling confident, moving to get some damage onto Wealthy Man. Cubsy resets his mana once again. Sidu falling a little bit behind. Now if Chanimals and Wealthy Man can get some damage rolling on Trill, he could be a vulnerable target here in midfield, but Mez just grips him over, getting some damage onto Chanimals, really limiting the amount of damage he has available And that's one of the things about these compositions that Method Orange is bringing. They have a lot of interrupts. CD with Grounding Totem and Wind Shear. Mez has Mind Freeze as well as Death Grip to interrupt cast, as well as Pet Stun and a Pet Interrupt. And Trill has an interrupt as well. So just a lot of disruption here on the side of Method Orange. But eventually, with Polymorph and Fear, Frostbolt, and Chaos Bolt, eventually Super Frogs will get off the casted spells that they need to start making something happen.
All right, Channel secures a double Shadow Fury. Wealthy Man follows up with a Polymorph, unfortunately breaking to the Infernals. Huge hit, though. Mez dips low. That's an important objective out of the way. The Icebound Fortitude. Trill now getting caught by Cubsy. He's trying to burst him down. Finally showing that surprise with the Feral Affinity. They get the Gliders Medallion from Trill. Cubsy could certainly be the X factor in the team, and he's been patiently waiting to attack deeper into dampening. Doesn't want to show his hands, but now they know that the Claw is there.
Claw is there. Cubsy's going to be able to re-stealth and get the stuns that he needs. I think he's a lot more ferocious than just a little kitty cat there, Sid. Yes, that's better. Sea-Doo gets interrupted, and like you said, later on in the game, Sea-Doo's instant heals aren't going to be nearly as powerful as he needs. He's going to have to start channeling out those healing waves, chain heals potentially. That makes him very susceptible to Chanimal Spell Lock and Wealthy Man's counter spell. And if they can nail those consistently, Method Orange is going to continually fall behind.
All right, Channel, what are you going to do? Deep into dampening, we've seen Destruction Warlocks get demolished. Will he be able to stay alive and counter-aggress against Method Orange in the grand finals of the North American Cup #4? Is this Method Orange's redemption? Can they finally rise back to glory? The former BlizzCon champions currently pinned down at the pillar, trying to escape away from that Frozen Orb, but Cubsy's going to jump into the fight. Chaos Bolt and a Feral Affinity. That's going to be pretty scary for Mez as he gets bursted, but he grips Chanimal in, tries to go maybe for a reversal. Very low on health. Sea-Doo connects some big heals, stabilizes Mez for now. I'm really just waiting to see what Cubsy can get done with that Feral Affinity a few more minutes in.
Yep, definitely have to see what he can get done. That additional damage might be able to close out the game, but Cubsy just continually running away, resetting his mana, now sitting very healthy. And I'm not exactly sure what Method Orange is going to do. They're going for these gripped attempts on Chanimals. So Chanimals, every single time, he's holding on to his Mortal Coil as he gets out in the open, then he counter-fears them with that Mortal Coil onto both Mez and Trill. Good pressure here from Method Orange as they charge forward, potentially trying to take Chanimals down, but he still has the Dark Soul available, the Unending Resolve. Method Orange has to be careful because every moment they stay in the open makes them susceptible to this damage and crowd control. Reverse magic from Trill onto Sea-Doo on that Polymorph. Wealthy Man's going to have to sneak in and land those crowd controls onto Sea-Doo, especially the Chanimals is the main person under fire.
So far, the composition that Super Frogs have crafted has countered the Mana Rift strategy as Cubsy is nowhere near running out of mana. Really what it comes down to is if Chanimals can survive deeper in dampening to a big push, which I think he will be able to. There's no mortal wounds effect, no healing reduction on the side of Method Orange. Maybe I'm just wrong. Chanimals finally just getting destroyed right here. Unending Resolve on 10% health and still just getting owned. Trill trinkets to actually just end the game and kill. This is the first time we've really seen him aggressively use that Gladiator's Medallion to stay on target. Method Orange may start to smell blood in the water. Sea-Doo, though, now in a Polymorph Infernals have landed. This could be devastating for Mez if he's not able to escape. They're not making any significant trades. Anti-Magic Shield and Dampening isn't that powerful. Dark Soul activated. Chanimal is ready to go. He kites out of the Anti-Magic Zone. If Mez follows him, he's going to take a huge Chaos Bolt. Chanimal's trying to fake cast interrupts. If Chanimal can get this Chaos Bolt off, he's baiting interrupts with Fear. No one's falling for the bait. He keeps going for Fears. He wants someone to interrupt Fear so he can Chaos Bolt, but no one's falling for it. Sea-Doo gets reversed out of the poly. Mez still dips low. Icebound Fortitude exchanges. It may be enough for him to stabilize. Mana suddenly not looking good for either side.
Yeah, Chanimal's getting lower as well. Things are looking great for Method Orange. Spirit Link Totem gets traded out. Darkness, the last line of defense for Trill. Method Orange, this is their final stand. They have to take Chanimals down. If they retreat at this point in the game, there is nothing left. But Mez running away. Chaos Bolt connects. Ray of Frost being channeled out by Wealthy Man. What are you going to do, Mez? As Chanimal gets gripped behind the pillar, he makes his way to his gateway, gates out into the open. Sea-Doo now caught into a Polymorph, into another one. Cubsy has to play catch-up. He does have his Innervate up, Iron Bark almost available. He's going to have to be trading that out. Imprisonment by Trill. Good crowd control here from Method Orange. Chanimal still low. This is critical for both teams. Mez trying to find some more damage, but Method Orange, if they stay in the open for too long, Wealthy Man's going to be able to really punish them.
Trill's going to have to decide when to use Darkness to just push them over. He's not going to be able to reliably use that for defense. It needs to be offense, but if he makes the wrong timing on it and doesn't get the kill, then they lose out on that immunity and probably die. So very risky decision deep into dampening for Method Orange, but at some point they're going to have to make that decision. Otherwise, Channel might be able to close the game out. Triple Shadow Fury sets Wealthy Man up. Trill reverses it, fortunately for Sea-Doo to get out of crowd control. Sea-Doo's totally tapped on mana. Cubsy is sat and drank to full. Super Frogs have the advantage in that regard, but I think it's pressure and momentum that Method Orange could have on their side. No Infernals for 58, no Icy Veins for 54. I wouldn't even be surprised to see the Super Frogs try and just abandon the push and wait for those offensive cooldowns to have some sort of counter aggression. Another ward to deny the incoming Gliders Maledict. Mez finally being pressured. Sea-Doo doesn't have any more mana left, and maybe the Super Frogs can do it.
I mean, it's been looking like it's going their way the entire game. Definitely wouldn't count them out yet. Mez low, he has the anti-magic shell in 2 seconds. Anti-magic zone, is he gonna trade it out? Very greedy plays there by Mez. Wealthy Man, almost 25 seconds left on that Icy Vein. That's a deadly cooldown. He will be able to take Method Orange down with. Now Sea-Doo caught into the polymorph. All 3 members just teeing off on Mez, who's stuck. He's trying to counter pressure Chanimals, but there's no healing left for Mez. Darkness gets dropped out. Sea-Doo completely tapped on mana. They shred through that anti-magic shell, and Mez having to retreat. This is looking horrible for Method Orange.
This is looking abysmal at this point with Icy Veins now available. Infernals now available. No mana left for Sea-Doo. Pinned at the pillar with the Vortex. Chanimal sets up for the kill. Huge potential damage. This next Chaos Bolt is going to be the end of the game if Chanimal can get it. He might not even need it. Mind Freeze denies it. How many more interrupts do they have? They don't even need it. Wealthy Man's gonna close it out. Super Frogs craft the composition to deny this stall-based tactic of Method Orange, and this is where I want to see Trill's Windwalker come in.
You want to see the Windwalker. How do you feel about that, Zico? Do you think the Windwalker could have really changed the tide of that one?
Yeah, I think Windwalker for sure would have been a little bit better than the Demon Hunter. Strength of the Demon Hunter. He's going to be those mana rifts, and Cubsy had full mana the entire game. I mean, Cubsy was never really pressured or chased. And I think Method Orange, they just played it very passively. They kind of tried to play it the way we saw that final game of Wildcard Gaming go. But it's a very different matchup when you're first of all playing with a Resto Shaman instead of a Mistweaver, and you're also playing with that Demon Hunter over that Windwalker. The Windwalker gonna be providing a lot more burst damage compared to the Demon Hunter, whereas the Demon Hunter is more of a mana draining, just mobile Batman.
Mana draining mobile Batman. I want that on my tombstone, dude. Honestly, that's pretty sweet. What did you think about Sea-Doo playing Draenei Relentless? That was an interesting thing that I don't think we really see very often. Why?
Well, it's an extra heal. It's just an extra, I believe it's percentage based too, right? So it's an extra percentage based heal that doesn't have a mana cost. I'm guessing it's just a bit better than, I mean, what else does he have? He can be a dwarf. I think it's better. If he's never going to be targeted, it's always going to be better. You have a little bit of extra healing, even though it's not going to be that significant in dampening. Any little bit can help for sure. So I like it personally.
Yeah, it's what are your options? It's Dwarf, Dark Iron Dwarf, and Draenei, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so those are really the only choices that you do have. So ultimately, we are going to see with that shift to Alliance. Do you think there's any reason for them to maybe go Horde though?
I don't really think so.
No.
Okay, so totally okay with that pick there. So that doesn't maybe change. Does the comp change?
I think they need a new comp. Like we kind of talked about, their main win condition is getting Super Frogs out of mana. And if they're not doing that, which didn't seem like they had much hope of, at least in this particular matchup, I think they need to switch it up. And I think it's likely, in my mind, what ends up happening is Method Orange, normally when they're dealing with these different wizard setups that are giving them problems, Super Frogs locks in the same comp, the Mage lock Druid, then I think it's likely Method Orange brings in Samayam on the Moonkin, and they play Moonkin with the Demon Hunter. That gives them a little bit of range damage to pressure down Super Frogs a little bit, and then they can maybe land the mana rifts with the backup of Samayam on that Moonkin. The crowd control he brings with Cyclones, but I'm not even sure that'll work.
They actually lost that matchup, but it was on Tolveron though, not Nagrand, when they played with the Moonkin, so I guess that's maybe why they didn't want to do it. I think it's likely to see Super Frogs lock in Roguelock Druid on smaller maps, and then maybe go back to the Magelock Druid on the medium and the bigger maps like Tiger's Peak and Tolveron, etc. I think Method Orange is probably just going to lock in the same thing on small maps as well, the Demon Hunter and the DK. And then I personally want to see a change as well, like you guys, from Method Orange on the larger maps. Maybe Trill on the Windwalker is the answer. Maybe they can play with Samayam and clean it up a little bit. We only really have one game of sample size in how that matchup would go with the Magelock versus the Demon Hunter and the okay, Super Frogs are going to lock in the same thing, even on a small map. That's kind of interesting. I think Trill is going to have an easier time mana burning Cubsy. I think they shouldn't stay behind the pillar and just wait for dampening. They should just have Trill chasing Cubsy, spamming his cooldowns on him, applying pressure, and then have Mez stay in, maybe target Wealthy Man or Chanimal, and just try to win on mana before you even get really to that deep dampening.
That's exactly what you want to be doing if you're trying to take that bust to Trillville. So this seems to play into Method Orange's hand. We talk about some of the things that potentially needed to change. Now that we see this composition, maybe we're not looking for him as much. Trill doesn't seem to need to go on the Monk now, and I do want to talk about the Moonkin, although we don't really expect it now with what we saw. Sid, why have we seen less Moonkins all in all so far in the meta?
I mean, they're just overall not the strongest. They're just pretty beefy bear, and they can get some good instant cast damage with Solar Beam, but when facing a Restoration Druid, they can shapeshift out of Entangling Roots and avoid the combination of crowd control. So if there were less Druids, then perhaps there would be more balanced Druids, but right now, balanced Druid can't really overwhelm the healing output of the rest of Druid, so you really rely on deep dampening, big Star Surge push, but I think Cubsy's comp is still fully capable of dealing with that. I don't really want to see Samayam unless it's a really big map. I think Dalaran Sewers, it's far better to run with one of the melee cleaves that Method Orange have.
Would you say that the Resto Druids shift the balance of how many balanced Druids we're seeing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they do.
Okay. Yeah, you call them big, beefy bears. They have one big punch with the Incarn as well, and it doesn't seem like they fit in the meta very well. Maybe that meta was shifted, because ultimately when you do kind of look at the other tools that they have as well, it's like Renewal, great. It's not going to be enough to consistently make it into the dampening. You sit in bear form a lot, you're not able to get, okay.
They're going to do it, but
You're going to see it.
Told you.
I'm not sold.
Did you?
That's what I said was going to happen.
On Dalaran too?
I said that they locked in that. Method Orange will lock in this.
All right, then.
Good.
1 point Ven. 1 point Ven.
Mugambala, Game 7.
Mugambala Game 7. Ven was right. And then,
I did say that we didn't see this matchup on a large map, so small sample size of this matchup. This could be good.
What do you think of it? What do you think of it here, though? Like, why did you start to suggest that we may see it?
Well, Method Orange, it's no secret. What they want to do is run the other healer out of mana. They always want a mana advantage, period. Method Orange, with this composition, Samayam with that insanely large Starfall, will be able to hopefully prevent Cubsy from drinking. And if Trill can land mana rift, Samayam can put out some decent consistent pressure. I think that's their main strategy. Will it work? I don't know. We'll have to see. When we saw this matchup play out on Tolveron, the matchup Zico was talking about, what ended up happening was Trill would overextend to land those mana rifts on Cubsy, and Wealthy Man just had really good control. He would just polymorph him, Frost Nova him. Cubsy actually could sneak away, and it was really difficult for Samayam to push off the pillar without just eating Frost Bolts and Chaos Bolts and essentially just being forced to run away and hide. But I think on the smaller map, it's definitely something that could work out, because it's going to be much easier for Sea-Doo to stay on top of Trill. He doesn't have to run across the map as far like on Tolveron, and Samayam by himself can stop a lot of those drinks.
And
Starfall.
One of the other things that Supa mentioned was going to be those big setups around actually getting that silence, getting that root. That's not going to be as much of a factor here.
Yeah, I mean, Method Orange, they're not going to be trying to win with the same way we saw them kind of win BlizzCon last year, when they had those really nice CC chains with the Root Solar Beam into the Chaos Nova, into the Imprisonment, into the Cyclone. We're not going to see that here. Moonkins, they're not going to be packing that same punch as they did in that patch. Instead, it's going to be like Van said. We're going to have Trill run after Cubsy, trying to mana rift him, and then Samayam is going to have that big Starfall radius, try to shut down a lot of those drinks. So that's definitely the game plan here for Method Orange. And then when Cubsy's out of mana, we can see a big one-shot potentially on Wealthy Man, potentially on Chanimal, and that's how they want to close out the match. I think it could work. It could work. I think a cleave could also work on a small map against this. I think the map definitely is a big factor here to Method Orange, but that also says a lot about how the series could play out as well, because next map is not going to be small.
Yeah, that's kind of my question, is how telling is this for the rest of the series? Because not only is the map size going to be changing pretty much back and forth is kind of a cadence that we can almost expect to see, but if the Moonkin does fall on its face, how much else does Method really have?
It's got to be Trill on the Windwalker, or just abusing the Windwalker DK strength on those smaller maps. It's definitely going to be a lot more effective than it was on Nagrand on a map like this. So they still have a couple of options, but still only winning on the smaller maps is not great. You still want to have something that beats out what the Super Frogs are doing on big maps. In my opinion, that should be Trill on Windwalker. They can sit back and they can do what we basically saw over in Europe when we saw the Cleave kind of wait out a little bit in Wildcard Gaming and then do those big pushes onto the Warlock, force out the Unending Resolve, and eventually take him down.
Very important to be thinking about, though, here, folks. It's only Game 2 of our best of 7 in the Grand Finals of Cup number 4 for North America. If we see Sam I Am on this Moonkin be the X factor that can net Method Orange a win, all of a sudden, their prospects for this series look a lot better. If we see the Moonkin get defeathered, it may be a scary series for Method Orange.
Yeah, Method Orange might just get completely destroyed here by the Super Frogs.
Completely plucked.
Completely plucked indeed. Sea-Doo polymorph, Samurai Mortal Coiled away. Wealthy Man setting up burst off the back of it. Getting Solar Beam now on the follow-up crowd control. Samurai Solar Beams are going to be more about disruption when facing a Restoration Druid team, much less about stopping healing. So he will either be using them on polymorphs or fears, Chaos Bolts, or Ebon Bolts, likely. In that position, he used it on a polymorph while Sea-Doo was still in one to deny the follow-up and break the chain. So good usage of Solar Beam in that point of as an example. Sea-Doo is still crowd controlled. Sam I Am's ducking in bear form, and that is the one advantage that the Balanced Druid brings to the meta, is he reduces magic damage on himself significantly when in bear form. So Sam I Am will have that edge. The map sets themselves up well, but Cubsy has so far been able to avoid a lot of mana rifts just by running away from Trill throughout, and I'm very curious to see as this plays out how well they can keep Trill off of Cubsy.
Well, it's just all about Wealthy Man and Chanimals rotating their polymorphs in Fear. When Wealthy Man gets a polymorph on Trill, Chanimals lands a Fear onto Sea-Doo, and that way he can't dispel them. And they just rotate through those. In reverse, when Chanimals fears Trill, that's when Wealthy Man goes for polymorphs on Sea-Doo, and it becomes difficult for Method Orange to really shut down all of that. Although I must say, so far Cubsy's mana is falling a little bit behind. This is looking a lot better for Method Orange. Sea-Doo has a massive mana lead, but Sam I Am has to be careful. He's going to be able to tank out a lot of this damage in bear form if he really needs to. Wealthy Man and Chanimals once again just teeing off. Sea-Doo into a polymorph as they look to push in and potentially take Sam I Am down, but I think it's unlikely at this point. With the pillar, line of sighting, that safety net will ultimately keep Method Orange alive.
The thing is, Sam I Am does not have Death Strike, so Sea-Doo will have to cast a lot more heals, which is very scary when facing Chanimal and Wealthy Man with Spell Lock and Counterspell available. Trill getting a triple stun, definitely a mistake on part of the Super Frogs to stack up for that. However, Method Orange are developing a mana lead, which they weren't able to do in game number 1, and if that is their main point of strategy, it will work on these small maps, but let's say the Super Frogs lose this. We're going to Tolvaron. I don't think the same is true on Tolvaron, and we've seen that matchup play out in the past between these two teams, and at that point, Method Orange are going to, I think, need a different strategy than just Mana Rift.
Potentially. I mean, it's got them this far, right? Now Cubsy down around 30% mana already. Method Orange is looking really good. Trill has had such high uptime on Cubsy. I think all three members have been doing a great job pushing in. Sam I Am really has to get counter-pressured here. Potentially even like to see a swap onto Sea-Doo. If they can manage to land a bash on Sea-Doo when he's midfield into a coil, maybe they could take him down. But Sam I Am forced so defensive in this matchup. Unfortunately, Trill also getting feared up. Maybe Cubsy sitting down for a drink. If he can recover all that mana, this huge lead Method Orange had is going to be completely lost. But unfortunately for Cubsy, Sam I Am finds him, gets him out of stealth, and they secure their mana lead.
Good moves by Sam I Am. That is the only thing really going in favor of Method Orange is that mana lead, and they need to make sure they keep it. Sam I Am out in midfield. Could be a bit dangerous. He's popping Incarnation. He's trying to go for a kill, and Cubsy's going to be the kill target as they go for an all-in burst attempt. Multiple Gladiators Maledicts connect. Cubsy manages to escape, but for how much longer? Sea-Doo's purging him. He's desperately trying to take him down. Ursul's Vortex pulls Sea-Doo downstairs out of line of sight. Now trying to get back up. Cubsy ducks around the corner. but his mana, just look at it, it's not there anymore, Ven.
Yeah, it's disappeared from the arena. Hopefully he can cover, or hopefully for Super Frogs, he can recover some of it, but Trill in hot pursuit. Like we said, Demon Hunters right now, they're mostly hunting mana bars, not demons. And that seems to be the case in this matchup as Cubsy's getting lower and lower. Sea-Doo actually, like you kind of mentioned, even throwing in some offensive purges during those moments of burst for their team, and I actually really like that. He has such a massive mana lead that he can really force Cubsy to fall behind.
I just think on this map, maybe the Super Frog should play more aggressive rather than trying to avoid the fight. Just try and kill Sam. I'm not sure what else they can really do. I think Cubsy is just running laps on the outskirts of the map while Trill and Sam chase him down to just mash out as many mana rifts as possible, and then Dampening will overwhelm Cubsy where he can't heal anymore. To be fair, they need that situation to be able to do enough damage to really get through Super Frogs. So Method Orange are just playing for a safe win condition later into the match, and it's really up to Cubsy to find some way to sneak off and regenerate mana if he wants to keep his team in a good position. But winning that blind pick, winning in the Grand Arena fight was important for the rest of the series, so they'll have that swing match advantage, and they can always bring it to an open quarters, large map if they need to, should Method Orange continue this composition.
Yep, Cubsy with the last little bit of his mana. What is he going to do? Looking for a re-stealth here. Can Trill find him? There's a polymorph. Sam getting bursted down. It's danger time for Method Orange. Sea-Doo caught into a full fear. No Tremor Totem, but unfortunately it breaks. Now Chanimal's looking for a Chaos Bolt on Sam. I see ducks out of line of sight. Will be able to survive for now, and that's one of the main advantages of this map as well. If Sam can use these little pillars to escape in bear form with Sea-Doo, it's unlikely he goes down, but in midfield like this, he's very exposed to Wealthy Man and Chanimal's damage, so definitely going to have to be careful.
Sam just walking back into line of sight, and his Glacier Safeguard is going to get procced. Definitely needs to work on avoiding being attacked. Manages to re-stealth, sneaking across to stop Cubsy from drinking. Mana, though, in Dampening is surprisingly equaling out. The counter pressure from Chanimal has been very effective at creating windows of opportunity to potentially kill Sam, and I do expect him to be the main target at least for another 10 or 15% Dampening. Perhaps they go after Trill at that point when his self-sustainability is reduced. Wealthy Man gets denied on crowd control by Sam. Chanimal is cycloned up. Sam still just chasing Cubsy. Do we have a lap counter at this point?
Yep.
42.
42?
I had 71, but
who's right?
Not me, probably, because I'm just guessing. But we'll have to see.
It's pretty much doubled what I did.
Well, Sam still under fire here. Cubsy has managed to hold on to his mana at one point in the game. He did manage to sneak away for a little bit of a drink, recovering some of that mana he's lost once again in stealth. If Chanimals can land a fear, unfortunately not able to find it in time on Sam. That would have been huge for Cubsy. Now Sea-Doo caught into a polymorph. Sam all alone.
Yikes.
Wealthy Man looking to close it out. Reverse magic coming into the nick of time from Trill, allowing Sea-Doo to get off the Spirit Link Totem. What a scary moment for Method Orange. Super Frog still battling it out valiantly.
Thing is, on the small maps, Cubsy will lose on mana, but I think they can just win on damage by just crushing Sam. So even though Cubsy is completely tapped, I think Super Frogs still have an opportunity at victory. With Infernals 50 seconds away, Icy Veins a minute and 20. That's going to be a big hit combo to take out Sam if he's not careful. Cubsy using that wild charge to get advantage of the Z-axis. Of course, Trill as a Demon Hunter doesn't really care. He just presses spacebar twice, and he's back up to the second level immediately. Wealthy Man catches Sam in a stun. Out of form. He really needs to be in bear form for those big hits like that flurry. Sam is throwing.
He's in a lot of trouble with the bash onto Sea-Doo. Sam so low in this situation. Earthen Shield Totem gets dropped by Sea-Doo. Will Sam be able to hold on? Fear from Chanimals. Full polymorph secured by Wealthy Man. Sam still out of line of sight. Gladiator Safeguard and Barkskin keeps him alive, but what a scary moment, and it is close.
Oh, the Nether Ward.
After close call, beautiful Nether Ward from Chanimals. He is not letting Sam out of this.
Oh, that was so lucky for Sam to get feared into the box so Chanimal couldn't finish the Chaos Bolt. That might have actually killed him if Chanimal was able to get that. He's still looking for... Sam is just tanking all these hits out of bear form. He has no reason not to be in bear form on Balance Druid in this position. He's just taking huge hits for no reason. Sea-Doo has to trade the Ascendance, the Healing Tide Totem to try and recover. I think Cubsy, amidst all this chaos, has managed to drink. We're about to find out. Sam is still not topped off. This is looking abysmal. They set up for the kill off the back of the Shadow Fury, and Samayam gets totaled.
Oh man, we are just going to see him absolutely defeathered. You look at the first incarnation, he's able to get out so much pressure. You almost think that he's going to get an early kill. Then all of a sudden at 14% dampening, you see that first link, and you just think he's going to go down there. And then the incarn right off the back of that pressure when they try to return blows, it looked awful. They didn't get anything done. So what did we think of this composition all in all? It showed a heartbeat, but then very quickly it showed defeat. That wasn't on purpose, I'm sorry.
You're trying to steal my rap title?
I don't believe you. So, to Superfrog's credit, first and foremost, they play this composition so good. Consistently, you can see Trill is caught up in a Nova, Sea-Doo gets caught up in a Fear, Sea-Doo gets caught up in a Polymorph, Trill gets caught up in a Fear. Like, the way that they play it, they're always looking to cross CC both members while they're pressuring Samayam, and that's what allows Cubsy to get that drink that he is getting right now. And I mean, you might question Samayam for being in the middle of the map, but Samayam has a very tough decision here to make. Do I chase Sea-Doo and stop him with my Starfall? Do I let Cubsy drink the full mana and lose our win condition that we've set up our entire comp for? And this is what we saw when they faced off last week as well with this composition. Admittedly, a lot easier to execute on a map like Tolveron, but it's the same playstyle, and the way that Cubsy actually uses the map by running from one side to the other still allows Chanimal and Wealthy Man to get that CC out every single time he's crossing from one side to the other, and allows them to set up that CC chain and that damage. So Super Frogs play their win conditions perfectly, and Method Orange, when you Cubsy, find pressure on one of the DPS. Don't have both your DPS just chase him and allow Chanimal and Cubsy to do, and Chanimal and Wealthy Man, sorry, to do whatever they want.
All right, well, we see Method Orange break out the chicken, they get scrambled, and now they're scrambling to find a new composition.
To exploit as well in this specific matchup. I think him on a Druid or him on a Mistweaver, maybe not a Mistweaver in this specific matchup, but him on a Druid might be better.
I like a Mistweaver, that's what they played in Europe.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Mistweaver is starting to establish itself as the best. I'm just wondering if Sea-Doo has prepped his Druid or his Mistweaver more. It seems like Shaman is really his most confident, so they're going to rely on comfort, but sometimes you need to embrace discomfort to overcome adversity.
I mean, yeah, true words have really never been spoken, Sid. So.
Super Frog's going to be leading in this series 2-0. It is not match point, though. We are in the grand final for North America. This one is going to be a best of 7. So if Super Frogs take this, they are on match point and getting very close to send Method Orange that second place condolence prize.
So I'm wondering if Method Orange are going to take the same strategy as Wildcard Gaming and play at the pillar, wait for dampening, and then overwhelm the Destruction Warlock. It seems like that is what they are trying to do, but as Zico already pointed out in the pregame, is that these pillars are quite small, which means they'll have to reposition to other points of line of sight, and while they reposition, they're out in the open and they take huge hits. Wealthy Man is closing in, and I don't think playing at the wall is going to be the best spot. They're all stacked up.
Yeah, they're all stacked up, eating that blizzard, and this is the kind of triangle formation we talked about. Chanimal's in position to throw out some damage. Wealthy Man in position to throw out some damage, and if Method Orange just sits here passively, eventually Super Frogs will be able to find a kill opportunity potentially. Sea-Doo now into a Polymorph. Wealthy Man finds another one. Trill out of line of sight, just healing himself up. One Maledicт connects on him. Could he be in some trouble? Don't think so. Mez is going to shut down some of that damage, some of that kill attempt on Chanimals by gripping him in. Gets the asphyxiate. Trill ports over, looking for some pressure as well. Cubsy looking to deny, using his Innervate so he can cast out all of those really expensive heals like the Efflorescence in order to keep Chanimals alive.
Yeah, let's see if he can do it. So far, without that Mana Rift, Method Orange are going to have to rely on crowd control, coordination, and burst to take down the Super Frogs. Right now, we haven't seen any real aggressive pushes on their side. They've been mostly just focused on trying to line of sight and avoid the combat. Now getting caught in midfield. Huge burst. Ursul's Vortex pulls Trill back into line of sight. Wealthy Man blinks in to try and KO. Touch of Karma will allow Trill to survive, but a close call early on.
I actually feel like this map is kind of backfiring. These pillars aren't nearly enough for Method Orange to implement the strategy they really want, which is run, hide, wait till dampening. And with these small pillars, there's always someone in line of sight for Chanimals or Wealthy Man to try to exploit. So far, Wealthy Man is doing a great job making sure he's not overstaying his welcome. He gets out the damage that he needs. Trill and Mez now going to be moving in, but with Sea-Doo locked out, Trill and Mez could potentially be vulnerable. Chanimals realizes this. He drops out the Infernals looking for some damage, and Method Orange forced to retreat.
Method Orange once again pinned at the pillar. Chanimal connects a bolt. I would like to see Welty Man and Chanimal split up. They're both in the same position currently, and both moving in the same direction, which means that Method Orange can all just shift at the same time in the opposite and avoid them entirely. It's a little bit of a mistake on positioning here from Chanimal and Welty Man. Although with the pillar so small that Frozen Orb is basically covering the entire side of it. Welty Man gets gripped into the fight. Chanimal supports with a double stun, denying the reconnect as Welty Man blinks back in the center field into safety. We do see the Dark Simulacrum selected for Mez. He can steal crowd control, something like a Polymorph or a Fear, and then use that on the enemy healer Cubsy to extend crowd control and burst somebody down. I'm very curious to see what he is able to get done with that Honor talent moving forward.
Yeah, we'll have to definitely see what happens. Cubsy in a great position to just once again go down, sit for a drink. Method Orange, I don't think they care at this point. I think what they really want to do in this matchup is find a window of opportunity where they can really overwhelm Chanimals by using a lot of those offensive cooldowns, potentially pull out the Unending Resolve. And if they can do that, it's definitely a big lead. They get Iron Bark. They get the Unending Resolve as well from Chanimals. Now Mez and Trill, they're pushing forward. Mez managed to use the Dark Simulacrum. Didn't steal anything just yet. Polymorph on a Sea-Doo. I think Mez might have actually taken a Polymorph, so Cubsy needs to be a little bit careful of that. He does manage to get that. That's going to be extra crowd control for Method Orange that they need to take down Chanimals.
Yeah, Super Frogs 2-0 up in the lead of this grand final, setting themselves up quite well to just secure victory overall when facing down Method Orange. Cubsy pinned down behind the pillar with that Ring of Peace, well positioned by Trill, but Mez is the one still under fire. With Welty Man and Chanimal on these double spellcasters, if you leave one of them open, they will create momentum and swing the game in their favor. Chanimal repositioning to the right side. Welty Man free casting. Chanimal trying to fake cast some interrupts. Baits one with the Shadow Fury. Finds a Chaos Bolt on Trill. Sea-Doo and a Polymorph. Big mistakes here by Method Orange, getting caught in crowd control and tons of damage. They can't afford these slip-ups.
Yeah, Trill low. He's already used the Diffuse Magic. He has Touch of Karma. Danger time. Sea-Doo manages to connect some heals as Trill and Sea-Doo line of sighting. Mez trying to push in aggressive in the matchup, trying to keep some pressure for his team, but forced to retreat over to Mr. Outstanding.
I'm sorry. That guy is too hilarious in this arena. Mez gets bursted down to half. Sea-Doo recovers. Actually caught in, they can't afford to get caught in these polymorphs. The one downside of this small map as well is that Welty Man can start a polymorph, blink fully into line of sight, and can secure crowd control. Now even attacking Sea-Doo, but Sea-Doo effectively utilizing that Pack Spirit, recovering in Ghost Wolf effectively for free. No mana advantage establishing itself on either side. Chanimal, however, his defense is limited. No Unending Resolve for another minute, potentially. It's gonna exploit that.
Yeah, we need Welty Man's positioning. Get away from that guy as soon as possible. There's a stun onto Chanimals. Incapacitate over onto Cubsy. Caught into a stun as well. He does have his Trinket and Iron Bark available if he needs it. Chanimal's going to be feeling quite healthy. But like we've kind of seen in these matchups before, it's all about the Windwalker Monk and the Death Knight extending it long enough where their cooldowns are desynced with some of the defensives that Chanimals really has available. And that's what we're about to see. Trill with his Touch of Death coming up in 2 seconds. That's a great opportunity for them to get some damage rolling on Chanimals and potentially find a kill in this matchup.
Yeah, let's see if they can get it done. They got another 30 seconds on that clock to try and take down Chanimal, but they're going after Sea-Doo. They got him out in midfield. Mez saves the day with that anti-magic zone, but it only trades for the Infernals. There's still 2 big threats, Dark Soul and Icy Veins, which could be popped at any moment. Mez is still exposed. Multiple interrupts already used. Chanimal connects a Chaos Bolt. Welty Man secures a Polymorph. Great initiation, but Mez steals it and secures a Polymorph of his own. 6 seconds away from that Unending Resolve. Cubsy needs to pray that Iron Bark will be enough, and it does appear to be the case. In the meantime, Sea-Doo is just eating crowd control like candy. Mez is going to go down as a result, and Super Frogs advance to match point.
Candy ain't good for you. Mez going to be torn out like a tooth that has a cavity. The Super Frogs are going to be going straight to match point.
And again, it's what we mentioned a little bit in the start. This map can definitely backfire if you pick hook point. You want to be super aggressive. It's not a great map for staying back and kind of waiting for dampening to kick in a little bit before you make those big pushes, because like we mentioned, the pillars are some of the smallest in the game. It's super easy for a mage to land polymorphs on that map. In particular, with the Shimmer, you can, as we saw, I mean, Sea-Doo was in polymorph pretty much the entire game because it's so hard for him to avoid them on this map. Wealthy Man is going to have an easy time landing them. The pillars are super small. Wealthy Man can just blink, and it can take him towards the other side, and it's pretty much impossible for Sea-Doo to line of sight those. I really believe Sea-Doo was trying to pre-Spirit Link that polymorph there, but he just didn't have the global cooldown to do so because of that Icy Veins from Wealthy Man. And then here, of course, a counter push was essentially happening from Trill. Not gonna be enough, and this kill also was set up from the fact that they polymorphed Sea-Doo earlier because of the map, and then they swapped to Sea-Doo with 2 Chaos Bolts, and then they had to use the anti-magic zone to save Sea-Doo. Didn't have it here now when they needed it, so instead Mez goes down.
Yeah, it really was an outstanding kill coming out there. Super Tees, what do you expect to see next in this series?
Well, I think no matter what we see, it will most certainly be excellent.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's something we've come to expect from these teams. But Ben Ruki, what do you expect that will be?
Doesn't he say excellent?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, okay. That was the first time I didn't know. We weren't on the same wavelength there.
Yeah.
I got worried.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Don't get worried. We'll talk about it later.
I don't know. That didn't look too good for Method Orange.
Definitely didn't.
I feel like they could do that again on potentially different maps. Trying to think of what maps are available. I think Black Rookhold has already...
Blade's Edge.
They could play Blade's Edge, potentially.
Tigers.
Double DH.
I don't think double DH.
You keep talking about the mana rifts, just go all in. Honestly, at this point, I think we do see more desperation. That's kind of been the name of this series. We have not seen them.
What has looked the best so far for them?
Probably the first game.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is one of those situations where Method Orange...
Last series.
They have to try to figure something out.
Play against Golo again.
They haven't tried a DHDK on a small map. They only played it on Nagrand, and then they went for Samayam on a small map, and then they went for the Windwalker DK on a small map, which is a really good map actually for mages. So, I don't know.
Yeah, this seems like a tough one. I mean, it really isn't looking good for them. If you're a Super Frogs fan, you're pretty happy right now because it would be somewhat of a throw to see an absolute reverse sweep come in now. And I feel like we've been in this situation quite a few times in the tournament, and we really have we seen any of the reverse sweeps come to fruition this week? I feel like this has not been a week for Dreamers.
I'm trying to think. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I really don't. We did somewhat the weeks before, but this time around, we're seeing the meta settle, right? When the meta does settle, you're going to see less and less of those reverse sweeps, at least from what we've seen in past years. And now, I think this has been a series where we've seen quite a bit of desperation. Now we're going to go to Tiger's Peak. Does this broadcast anything to you?
Maybe Method Orange is going to be trying to pull a page from what we saw in Wildcard Gaming and Method Black, take advantage of that positioning behind that little platform on each side of the map, and maybe Sea-Doo switches off the Shaman and plays Mistweaver Monk, potentially. I feel like the healing throughput is just so much better. Maybe for Sea-Doo, it's so funny.
I don't know. Rich is just smiling at me.
I'm just trying to talk strategy.
I'm listening to you. Do you think
He's totally
it's
ignoring you?
No, we're talking about switching off the Shaman.
Switch off the Shaman, potentially look for the Mistweaver Monk's additional healing, because Sea-Doo on the Shaman, it's really nice. He has Grounding Totem, he has Wind Shear, but there's just so much that he has to deal with. Chanimals and Wealthy Man, with the amount of casted spells that they have available, it just seems like he eventually runs out of healing. He's very susceptible to those interrupts, and eventually he will get caught in a fear and a polymorph, and then it's danger time for Method Orange. I don't know what they're going to do. Didn't seem like the Moonkin strategy worked out very well. When they played DHDK, they were just controlled the entire game. They weren't able to find any mana rifts. Windwalker DK, I mean, didn't seem like they're as polished on it with that comp, but yeah.
There were some people, Zico, that looked at the composition that Method Orange had and they said it was unbeatable. They don't make it to Sunday. The people that do have managed to find plenty of answers for it. We have seen that there's no comp in this meta right now that is purely undefeatable. We're going to see Trill on that Windwalker again.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I think the map choice and the comp choice signals very heavily that we're going to be seeing this. This is a straight up copy pasta from Europe, from what we saw. Minus the monk, but I mean, strategy wise and with what they have available, this is the best version of that for Method Orange.
Should we take bets to see if Method Orange is going to use that same positioning to line of sight?
I wouldn't bet against that.
You think it's going to happen? I think
it's going to happen for sure. Yeah. And they're going to just kind of kick back, wait for a little bit of dampening. And this is where it's going to be interesting to see, first of all, how the Shaman is going to pair up compared to the Mistweaver. My prediction is worse. And also how Super Frogs are going to approach the matchup, because I really think Super Frogs play this comp a bit better than what Method Black did, honestly. It felt like when Method Black played it, it was a little bit desperation. We haven't really seen Swapsy on that Warlock since last year, so that's something that they don't necessarily want to play unless they feel like their other compositions aren't working. Whereas Super Frogs, this is something they picked in the blind. This is something that they've been picking last week as well. This is something that they've actively been practicing, it seems. So, and also they have Chanimal, in my opinion, just the king of Warlocks right now. So I feel like it could potentially not even work for Method Orange because of those factors, mainly the healer and also because Super Frogs just seem more polished on it.
I definitely think that these are important things to keep in mind, but I just want to reiterate, I don't think we expected Method Orange to not be able to grab a win in this series, and it's
Ugambala, Game 7.
I don't think it's going to happen anymore, Sid.
I had a vision, Sid. It's not happening this week.
Oh, man, it doesn't look like we're going to be getting to a Game 7. It looks like the Super Frogs may be able to just close this one out. Method Orange, their last hope, going to be Trill on that Monk. Will they be able to find some semblance of pressure? Will they be able to find a win? Are they going to find themselves stuck in second place?
We are about to find out as they are on match point. Super Frogs look to secure victory and establish dominance in the North American region. They will be passing the boys in points. They've secured their spot at the spring finals already, even without this victory, but of course accumulating as many points as possible to potentially qualify off of them to the world finals is of utmost importance, and Super Frogs look likely to take it unless Method Orange can reverse sweep. Method Orange have to win 4 matches in a row. 3 of them they will be at a map pick and a comp pick disadvantage. That is a tall order to take.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at Trill's talent choices, he is going with the Tiger Eye Brew. So he's going to be able to build that up, and every time he activates it, gives him a few seconds of where his damage turns into magic damage, and he can really shred through a lot of the armor that Chanimals has available to him, a lot of that defense. So that gives me the clue, or sort of suggests to me, that Chanimals will be the main target in this matchup. I think Method Orange is really going to have to pick their moment to push in. Trill right now with no Transcendence and no Touch of Karma, going to be feeling very vulnerable. And I don't really see Chanimals going down in this matchup until much later on in dampening.
Yeah, most certainly dampening going to be required. It's a matter of if Method Orange can actually make it to that point. They're already getting bursted down through multiple defensive options early on. Finding some momentum here on Chanimal. First down a half, immediately healed back to full health. Must have been a huge swift mend by Chanimal. Dark Soul Icy Veins available, and I'm really trying to pay attention to how the Super Frogs place their offensive cooldowns, because they're really the only team we see playing this composition and only ones actually able to make it work. And I think it is offensive cooldown management. They lead with Infernals, they try and bait some cooldowns, then they split it up. Ooh, a stolen polymorph by Mez could turn this game on its head. Well done. Managing to keep his team in the fight, forcing that Gladiator's Medallion and Iron Bark. A mistake like that later in the game definitely will cost the Super Frogs.
Yeah, Trill portals away behind the pillar, uses his Transcendence, but he's left Mez in the midfield, who instantly recovers his health with a Death Strike. Good burst damage from Wealthy Man, but unfortunately Mez, with his self-healing, will be able to recover quite quickly. Now Trill moving in with the Touch of Death. Full Polymorph stolen once again. Chanimals could actually go down off the back of that stolen Polymorph from Mez. Nice Ring of Peace onto Chanimals, keeping him far away from his healer. Asphyxiate stun now onto Cubsy as Mez continues the crowd control chain, but just not enough damage there. Chanimals manages to survive, but they did pull out that Unending Resolve, that major defensive cooldown Chanimals has available.
Yeah, these Dark Simulacrums on Mez are carrying the team. Mez really putting his team on his shoulders here on their on-match point. Can Mez do it? Can he keep his team alive in the tournament? They have to win 4 games in a row against the Super Frogs. It'll be on Super Frogs territory as well for the rest of the series, even if they should go down here and now. It is getting a bit scary. Mez activating the Dark Simulacrum. Let's see if he managed to steal anything. I don't think he did, or he would have already have exchanged it, since they are so far ahead in terms of pressure. Cubsy repositioning to the opposite side of the map. Sidhu looking like he wanted to cross and maybe deny him from drinking. Not able to do so. Mana not looking that good for Sidhu. Things overall, cooldown-wise, are in favor of Method Orange, but the mana lead is establishing itself.
Yeah, definitely Trill still in the fight, pushing forward onto Chanimal, not opting to run away or commit any defensive cooldowns just yet. Cubsy still ahead on mana, like you kind of mentioned. Full polymorph now onto Sidhu. Trill could be in some trouble, or at least have to use some defensives. Chanimals does get interrupted. Another polymorph secured by Wealthy Man as he's looking to just free up Chanimals. He's trying to find some counter pressure to force Trill and Mez to back off just a little bit, but so far it hasn't been enough. So he pulls the trigger with the Icy Veins, looking to get hyper-aggressive here onto Method Orange. Is he going to be able to do it?
I'm not sure. Chanimal's doing his best to just close this series out. If he can connect some Chaos Bolts during this Infernal timing, it would be devastating. All three members getting cleaved apart. Sidhu getting destroyed. Spearling Totem exchanged to recover. You cannot disrespect the Super Frog's damage, most certainly, and Chanimals is really just leading the charge, trying to close this game out here and now. Multiple Maledicts flying in, Sidhu ducking around the corner, recovering, but now they can switch their attention to Mez and Trill. I do not think they can afford to stack up a Frozen Orb in the near future, otherwise it's likely to be the end of the tournament for them.
Yeah, Cubsy did sit down, managed to get a whole bunch of mana back. He also has the Iron Bark and Thorns in order to keep Chanimals alive, but Trill, with every single defensive and offensive cooldown available, Method Orange, they still have it in them to push through. If they can get the Iron Bark, Chanimals with no unending resolve for another 35 seconds is still very vulnerable, caught in midfield. Both the men still trying to build some pressure. Cubsy gets gripped into it and asphyxiate as Chanimals ports away. He wants to make sure he is away from Cubsy. Trill getting caught into the Mortal Coil. A lot of damage on him. Forced to use the Touch of Karma. Polymorph on Sidhu. Method Orange now very vulnerable, but this all-in attempt on Chanimals could cost him the game. There's the Iron Bar committed by Cubsy. He needs to play catch-up at this point, using the Nether Ward to redirect those Gladiators' Maledicts. Very nicely done. Mez manages to find one, but Cubsy with a Dispel and heals easily deflects.
Ooh, Mez stole a Fear, putting that on Cubsy, trying to get an unending resolve, but it's Trill on the back foot as a polymorph is secured. Ray of Frost could just close the game out. Trill max ranges, ducks around the corner. Mez now left behind. Chanimal trying to stun him. He actually stuns up Sidhu. Are they going to follow it up? No, instead attacking Sidhu, just hitting whoever's out in the open, looking for a Chaos Bolt. That's at least going to cost Sidhu potentially some mana. Big hit. Mez and Trill, they jump back into the fight while Sidhu is still recovering. That can't be the right maneuver. Mez instead just tanking some hits with that Death Strike recovers. Good pre-tremor on that Fear by Sidhu, breaking the crowd control. Chanimal is still just trying to go for an attack. Nether Ward to immune and interrupt. Gets a Fear, but not onto Sidhu. Frozen Orb down. Ring of Peace knocks Chanimal maybe out of line of sight. Able to sneak back in before the stun was secured. Nourish from Cubsy should be more than enough to stabilize. They've got a huge mana lead with Dampening just moving in. They've had way more burst opportunities and way more kill windows than Method Orange. This game is much so in favor of Super Frogs, and that's not looking good when you're on match point.
Trill activates the Diffuse Magic to remove one of the Gladiators' Maledicts. Another one comes flying in. Sidhu dispels it. Sidhu's mana not doing great. Mez caught in midfield. Has to get to line of sight as soon as possible, but all three members of Super Frogs chucking in damage as much as they can. Trill with Touch of Karma might be feeling a little bit safe, but this is not the best position for Method Orange to be in. Chanimals has recovered, unending resolve. He's looking good. If Method Orange has to fully retreat, that's not the spot you want to be. Sidhu's unlikely to be able to ever drink in this matchup, whereas Cubsy, if he has to sneak away and get a reset, he's going to be feeling completely fine. Trill getting low. A lot of burst damage coming in off the back of those Infernals from Chanimal. They want to close out this game. Mortal Coil on Mez. He deflects with the anti-magic shell. Sidhu trying to recover with his Ascendance as all three members of Method Orange run and hide.
They managed to recover with Ascendance, but for how much longer? They have to retreat along the outskirts of this balcony. Earthen Wall Totem now placed down. That's going to keep Sidhu's team nice and cozy, but they stack up for a double stun. Well-timed leg sweep by Trill. Maybe an opportunity to get back in the fight. Grounding Totem on the Chaos Bolt. Good denial by Sidhu, but his mana is looking terrible. Cubsy's back to full. The late game fully in favor of the Super Frogs at this point. They've had way more burst opportunities. Everything is swinging in their fortune. Double Shadow Fury, Fear to set up. Ultimate tries to sneak a poly. Sidhu shuts him down. Sidhu definitely on point in this game in terms of denial. He's going to have to make zero mistakes if he wants to have a chance at staying in this tournament.
Yeah, definitely Mez in a little bit of trouble as well. Chanimal's looking for a Chaos Bolt. Unable to find it just yet. Spear Hand Strike coming in from Trill, immediately interrupting that spell. Now, once again, Cubsy, he can sit down for a drink. It's unlikely Sea-Doo will ever be able to do that. Super Frog's looking very healthy with the amount of defensive cooldowns that they have. Infernal's coming off cooldown shortly. Wealthy Man with the Icy Veins as well, almost up. Wealthy Man moves in, trying to find some damage. Shanimals gets gripped in by Mez and Trill. Can they force out anything here? They don't really have too many offensive cooldowns to really force Chanimals defensive. He's just going to be moving in, looking for fears, looking for damage. Wealthy Man backing him up, finds the full polymorph on Sea-Doo. Trill could be in a lot of trouble as Super Frog's looking to close out this game.
Mez denies the follow-up. Good disruption on the side of Method Orange, but their mana is still not looking too good. Dampening is ramping up. They need to get some work done. Cubsy gets gripped in. He pre-bear forms it. He's not going to be a target to swap to. They're going to have to go after Chanimal, but even still not denting his health whatsoever. Dampening is just going to get higher and higher. Sea-Doo's mana, I don't think, is ever going to... Maybe he can sit down and go for a drink. He's been standing in one spot for some time.
Oh, he's getting it.
He's getting it.
Yeah, a lot of mana recovered by Sea-Doo, but maybe at the expense of Mez's life. Mez comes back in the nick of time in order for Sea-Doo to actually get some heals on him. Cubsy sitting down for a drink, realizing they're behind on mana. He needs to be able to recover a little bit. Method Orange, great strategy, gripping in Chanimals. Ring of Peace denies his exit route as well. Chanimals kind of stuck in this position. A lot of burst damage available for Method Orange as well. What is Chanimals going to do? Cubsy deflecting some of that with the Thorns, forcing Method Orange to back off just a little bit. At 28% damage, you have to try to avoid as much damage as possible.
Yeah, you most certainly do. Dealing damage is way more important in dampening, and avoiding damage is way more important. You can't just soak the hits at this critical mass. Sea-Doo gets the drink. His denial has been good here in game number 4 at breaking up crowd control and burst, but now they need to try and coordinate together aggressively to create some pressure. The Dark Simulacrums earlier on by Mez were game breaking, but at this point they're basically meaningless. He needs to try and get some snipes on crowd control if he wants to carry the team. Trading that anti-magic shield, soaking a huge hit from Chanimal, but look at those cooldowns. Infernals, Icy Veins, Dark Soul, those are big hitting spells for the Super Frogs, and they're all ready and available at any moment. Super Frogs can engage. Infernals have landed. Huge flurry comboed right at the same time. A grounding totem from Sea-Doo denies it, but the Maledicts are flying in. Mez is in trouble. He's trying to hide, but the Spearlink totem whiffs. Huge mistake on the side of Method Orange. Perhaps they recover, but it's going to be so difficult at this point.
Yeah, no Spirit Link totem to fall back on. No anti-magic zone either. Super Frog's looking really good in this position. Method Orange trying to recover at all costs. That was the Icy Veins of Wealthy Man. They managed to weather that storm, but still, this free casted damage from Super Frogs is just so strong, and the crowd control they're putting out is just excellent. Sea-Doo's been having a really difficult time finding the dispels he really needs. Trill gets dispelled out of a polymorph. Now he's into a full fear. Guess what? Sea-Doo only has one dispel, and that control really limits Method Orange damage potential.
I mean, now with no Spearlink Totem, no anti-magic zone, it's do or die. Chanimal respecting Trill's pressure here, trading unending resolve for the Touch of Death. And I'm wondering if that means Chanimal wants to get aggressive and in the face and just kill Method Orange here and now. They've got a lot of points on the board that they can even just afford to throw away. I wouldn't put it past them to get aggressive. If they were watching the European region, they would have seen the Windwalker Death Knight run the Destruction Warlock over in deep dampening. So I do think that Chanimal needs to look to end the game if they can't secure a mana advantage. But now Chanimal is falling behind. Cubsy is really struggling at 41% dampening, but Trill is giving up. He's going to retreat away. That allows... No, they're going to grip Chanimal out of line of sight. Cubsy repositions. Wealthy Man drops a triple frozen orb. There's no Earthen Wall Totem for 5 more seconds. How is Sea-Doo going to deal with the pressure? Mez is just going to try and Dark Simulacrum some crowd control. What did he end up getting? I don't think anything. Sea-Doo's totally tapped. He's rotted down. How's he going to recover? Chanimal being pressured. It's anyone's match at this point.
Definitely. Sea-Doo now almost completely tapped on mana. Wonder if he even threw in some purges at that point at 43% dampening. Mez is going to be feeling very scared. Anti-magic shell denies that kill, denies that chaos bolt, but Wealthy Man pushes in. He gets the full polymorph secured on Sea-Doo. Chanimal's looking for a Shadow Fury. Do they have the damage? Mez trinkets out. He's trying to run and hide, but Sea-Doo in a fear. There's no backup for Mez. Trill trying to find some counter pressure, but Wealthy Man controls him up. Cubsy in a great position to keep his team alive. And seriously, Method Orange, they are falling behind.
Super Frogs are looking to 4-0. Method Orange's Mez is just getting destroyed by the damage. Anti-magic zone, but a full polymorph sneaks its way through. Mez at 50% dampening, can't rely on Death Strike. If Wealthy Man keeps the chain going, they can't. They get denied. Sea-Doo's free. He's trying to connect a couple Riptides, but there's multiple interrupts that he needs to deal with. He's trying to fake cast the Fell Hunter. Can Sea-Doo fake cast through the interrupts at 50% dampening? I'm not so certain. Chanimal trying to reposition. They've got the triangle. Wealthy Man blinks in to close the game. Huge damage from Wealthy Man. Even if Chanimal doesn't get pressure out, Wealthy Man might soul him. Dark Simulacrum. Did he steal the polymorph? Is now the question. Can Mez somehow carry the team off the back of that? Maybe they can. Huge damage. Mez swings it back and manages to take down Chanimal. Method Orange stay in the tournament.
Method Orange stay in the tournament. Chanimal, welcome to Trailville. We thought that it was over. And just like that, Method Orange going to be able to turn it around with nothing left at all. Zico, how do they manage to pull that one off?
They finally made it to Dampenville, and they managed to take down Chanimal there at the end. They forced out his unending resolve. There was a couple of seconds there left on his Infernals. They had to go all in there. I really like that they went for it. Also, CD towards the end of that one really had a nice play there where he wind sheared Wealthy Man. Then he actually pre-capacitator totemed Wealthy Man on his polymorph. That surely would have secured the game, and we're actually going to be able to see it. It was right here, so Wealthy Man goes for the polymorph. He doesn't get it with the grounding totem actually, and then Wealthy Man is going to kill that grounding totem off, go for a new polymorph. So right there, grounding totem, then he kills it off, and then that pre-capacitator allows Cedar to get around the corner in line of sight, that last sheep there. It allows Cedar to dispel Trill there as well and give him that last bit that he needs. Cubsy, nice preemptive Iron Bark there, but dampening is going to be too high. He's not going to be able to exit out of that asphyxiate, and then they're going to be able to find victory against all odds there.
All right, the question is, do we keep seeing this Monk? That is going to be a huge factor moving forward. Is this the composition, Zico, that you want to see throughout the rest of the series?
I think that this could be a good composition for what Super Frogs are running, but let's not forget, Super Frogs have map pick. This is not the only thing that Super Frogs can run. These guys have the Roguelock Druid. These guys have all kinds of composition. They have Snuts. He's just chilling right now on the bench. He can play Rogue, LA Shaman. He can play they can play double Warlock if they want. Yeah. There's so many different threats that they have to consider now on Super Frogs, but this is the only thing that got them the win, right? So just pick it blind. That's your best option, I think, Method Orange.
I have a good guess. I think we're going Tolvaron Arena, and I think Method Orange, if they lock in Windwalker Death Knight, we're going to see Snuts come on the Shadow Priest once again. That seems to be what Super Frogs really likes to run on this map. It's worked out well for them. Method Orange, how are they going to read this situation? I feel like they have to lock it. They've been basically forced to lock in Windwalker Death Knight. If they don't, then they're just going to lose to the Mage Lock Druid. And if they do, then they're going to have to probably go against Snuts on the Shadow Priest.
It seems like the right move, though, right? To go for that. It's not something that... You look at all the other matchups, like we've really tested all of them. Yeah, it really is kind of the only move here. You go up against Snuts, and you are going to see them lock that in, but you assume that you are going to see Snuts on that Shadow Priest. Super T's why? It's something that we have started to see quite a bit into these melee cleaves on the big maps.
Oh, it's just got more consistent damage and dampening than the Destruction Warlock, and it's got more defense, or at least more readily available defense than the Destruction Warlock. So overall, it's just more well-rounded and less easily countered, especially by the Shaman. I think the spread pressure will really start to sink in a lot more into dampening if the Super Frogs can make it that far into the fight. On the large map, they also don't need to rely on the double diminishing returns, and since they're not facing Mana Rift as well, they don't even really need to worry about mana probably at all. So it makes sense that would be their composition to see Snuts tagged in.
Yeah, I think it does make a lot of sense here. It's something that we've seen more and more after the Bonded Souls changes as well. 1 minute for them to lock it in. Super Frogs, they just need one more here. I feel like they're definitely not that nervous after that last one. It's a pretty big upset for all of a sudden for Method Orange to take that in the final hour. Zico, do you think that they get shut down here?
I'm not sure. I think Super Frogs, right now, if I was Super Frogs, I would still be considering, hey, that game was insanely close. We've been winning every game with Mage Lock. Maybe we just stick to it. But at the same time, they have all of these extra comps available, and they are going to go for it. They're going to get Snuts in. It's an intelligent choice for sure for the reasons that Sid mentioned. But let's see if Snuts is hot now on the Shadow Priest. He's been kind of just watching his team right now, and maybe he needs a game or two to warm up, but then again, it's Snuts. He's a veteran player. He should be completely fine, and I think the composition makes sense for sure from Super Frogs. The map makes sense as well. They have every single advantage here. I think Super Frogs should be able to close this one out.
Yeah, I don't think Snuts is going to need to warm up at all. I think he's probably ready to go. I think that that's not going to be the issue here, if there is any. If there was an issue, what would you see it being for the Super Frogs?
I don't know. It's just a really durable composition. Like we kind of talked about for the Shadow Priest, one of the main advantages over the Destruction Warlock is your defensive cooldowns don't have such a long cooldown. So when Method Orange makes a push with Touch of Death with all these offensives, if they get the Unending Resolve from Chanimals on the Warlock, there's a huge window where they can push through and try to take him down. Whereas for the Shadow Priest, he can always rely on that Dispersion, on that Fade, to sort of trade with that Touch of Death cooldown to stay alive in the fight. And I think just overall consistent damage from the Shadow Priest eventually is going to add up to be higher. Although you don't have that same sort of one-shot potential, I still think that damage really adds up.
Yeah, definitely going to add up, especially in a game that's looking to potentially go long here for Method Orange like they had to do last time around. Sid, in this matchup, now that we see everything, we know where we're going, is this the last game in the series? Do you think Super Frogs do win it here, or do you think Method Orange gets one step closer to beating together, just slowly, that reverse sweep?
I mean, this is going to be probably the most difficult thing that Method Orange are ever going to face, at least so far this year, is another 3 games in a row with map disadvantage, comp disadvantage. Super Frogs, I think, are going to take it simply because of fatigue. Like at this point, if you're Method Orange, you've been playing through a really long day. Snuts has had time to just relax on the bench, rotating in some other members. I really think that they can't afford to make mistakes. We saw early in the game, Sea-Doo was playing phenomenally. I really didn't see any mistakes. Although earlier in the season, or earlier in the series, he missed grounding totems on incoming crowd control. He cleaned it up in the Tiger's Peak game. But then that panic attack with the Spirit Link totem made me think, well, maybe it's not all solid there. So, and this is probably not the composition that they put all their practice into. It was the Demon Hunter Death Knight, which I think is much more sturdy and consistent to heal. You're much less likely to make a mistake healing that composition than the one they are currently running, especially on a big map such as Tolvaron. So this is a really difficult task. I can only imagine how fatigued Method Orange are actually in this position, and I can only imagine the Super Frogs aren't going to slow down.
Yeah, the Super Frogs right now probably have a decent amount of confidence, not only from this series, but a season of being on an absolute tear. You look at this lineup before the roster changes come in, before this year even starts, and we were already saying they were one of the top teams in North America. We were just waiting for that jump. Snuts on this roster has made them one of the nuttiest teams that we have ever seen, and now they're looking for another win in a grand final. Tolvaron could be the place that they do it.
Yeah, Super Frogs in the past, they were kind of a one-trick pony, really relying on the Shaman, Warlock, either Windwalker, or the Assassination Rogue, and they were still taking down top-tier teams consistently, even when it seemed like they were compositionally disadvantaged. Now with Snuts, like you said, they just have so many different options. Seems like they always have an answer with the different compositions they have available, and they're still playing those comps at that very high-tier level.
You have to imagine how much endurance it takes to play out this grand final. Method Orange need to win 3 games in a row. Any mistake will be punished. Mez gets stunned up in midfield, dispelled, mind controlled. Ring of Peace breaks up that mind control. Good reaction by Trill. It does appear to be the case that Method Orange are staying at the pillar, avoiding the damage, maybe looking for a Death Grip stun combo, but Snuts and Wealthy Man, look at their positioning. Snuts on the right, Wealthy Man on the left, at least one of them can cast. They need to reposition. Snuts gripped into a stun. Crowd control on Cubsy. Good initiation by Method Orange. What can they bank off the back of it? Not even a dispersion. Unfortunate for Method Orange.
Yeah, unfortunate for Method Orange, but those Restoration Druid heal over time effects are going to be very powerful. Sea-Doo caught in midfield with Relentless. A swap like this later on could be devastating for Sea-Doo, especially with all those Maledict trinkets. If Super Frog is able to hold on to all 3 of those and use them on Sea-Doo with the Psychic Horror into a Silence, that could definitely be devastating for Method Orange.
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, he's still far behind, at least with Ascendance and Pack Spirit in Ghost Wolf. Sea-Doo can avoid being interrupted or silenced, stabilize the team with spending no mana, so good usage of cooldowns there on Sea-Doo's part to recover basically for free. Vampiric Embrace, well timed with Void Form. This allows Snuts to easily heal up his team with Void Bolt, an ability you only have access in Void Form. Maledict, Trill ports away from it. Sea-Doo dispels, but again, this is also a benefit of the Shadow Priest over the Warlock is Vampiric Touch, which is applied to the target, and if it's dispelled, then the person who dispels it is horrified for 3 seconds. You want to dispel the Gladiator's Maledict Healing Absorb, but then you'll eat 3 seconds of crowd control, which could snowball the game further if you're horrified out in the midfield for the mage to polymorph.
Yeah, no question about it. And I just think Shadow Priest Frost Mage, it has a lot of synergy, the way the damage works. Wealthy Man is going to provide a lot of snares and burst damage on that Frost Mage. Snuts a lot of consistent pressure on that Shadow Priest. They have a lot of instant crowd control as well. Snuts can set up a polymorph for Wealthy Man with that Psychic Horror stun, opting to use it now on Trill. With a silence on Sea-Doo, it means he can't dispel Trill, but Trill should be able to survive. He's in midfield. Method Orange looking to make a push on Snuts, but Snuts able to fade across the map, gets gripped back in by Mez. Now Snuts could actually be semi-vulnerable in this situation. Could actually be forced into dispersion as well. Cubsy really doesn't have the Iron Bark he needs to catch back up, but still manages to do so at the expense of a lot of mana. Now going into cat form, potentially looking for a drink, and he will be resetting his mana.
Drinking will be very easy for Cubsy on this map because Method Orange don't have Mana Rift, and they don't really have a good way of crossing big distances to stop Cubsy. So Super Frogs can secure a late game advantage with mana in that regard, and then later in Dampening, Vampiric Touch will start overwhelming Frozen Orb as well, and this is the advantages of taking the Shadow Priest. And you also get defensive advantages, is that Dispersion is just available more often than Unending Resolve, and almost certainly guaranteed that you will survive, unlike Unending Resolve. Wealthy Man is more likely to be the target for the team of Method Orange as they grip him into the fight. Life Grip and Blink, a bit of an overlap, definitely a mistake on the part of the Super Frogs there. Not a major one, but potentially maybe showing some signs of weakness.
Yeah, definitely. There's the Frozen Orb and Blizzard once again, dropped out on Sea-Doo, Mez, and Trill. They can easily heal through that damage at this point in the game, but later on, we always kind of talk about once that self-healing goes, once Sea-Doo's healing is limited, that AoE damage from the Frost Mage, from Wealthy Man, starts becoming very significant when paired, especially with that Shadow Priest. You can look at Snuts, and if you see little ghosts on the field, that's what Snuts is really focusing a lot of his damage on. Anytime he gets a Shadow Word Pain crit, I believe he sends out a Spirit, and that Spirit does additional damage, and most of his Azurite traits, Gearing, and Talents are focused around that build just to give him a little bit more instant damage.
Yep, good addition by Snuts, realizing that the enemy team will be line of sighting most of the fight, so trying to get access to more instant cast damage, some more spread pressure, so that deeper in Dampening he can overwhelm the opposing team. Cubsy just constantly looking for drinks. I do want to check if Cubsy is running that Feral Affinity. It could be risky if they decide to do an all-in on him, but at the same time, Feral Affinity is so much extra damage. Cubsy actually not running the Feral Affinity, running Balance Affinity. I'm checking if this is correct. Balance Affinity.
Yep, that's what he's been playing. I think he just wants the extra range on his spells, makes him way less susceptible to damage, makes it a lot more difficult, or for crowd control, makes it a lot more difficult for Mez and Trill to push in. Cubsy can always stay very far away, play very safe, as he knows that's really his main win condition.
All right, let's see. I would like to see them maybe gun down Cubsy deeper into Dampening now, which has advanced into the game with 3% currently. Mana tied. No real significant advantages for either side as we step foot into Dampening territory. Method Orange, everything's on the line here. They're on match point. They will be going into second place if they lose any game at this point. They need to win 3 in a row if they want to take this and be the champions of the North American Cup #2. They were able to come back today and overcome Never Lucky. They were knocked to the lower bracket by them, but now able to come up with better strategies and better play to overcome them. I was actually expecting Colo to win the tournament today, but Method Orange was able to adjust and overcome it. Now the Super Frogs seem to have found a good answer for the strategies that Method Orange employ, with that Mana Rift basically countered on that Destruction Warlock Frost Mage composition, allowing Cubsy to drink. Not even Sam-I-Am substitute on the Balance Druid was enough to overthrow it. And now moving on to Tolvaron Arena, Super Frogs have even more answers by bringing in Snuts on that Shadow Priest, which we've already seen be effective against a team like the boys, being able to kill Chun-Li. So I'm not sold here on Method Orange and their ability to make it all the way back. They're definitely going to need a lot of energy.
They haven't gotten any offense going in this game whatsoever, and the strategy of running and hiding, as long as Wealthy Man can get on one side of the pillar and Snuts can get on the other, this damage they're doing is going to end up being really significant, and Sea-Doo's going to have a really difficult time actually healing through it. But for now, Method Orange is stabilized. I'm just wondering when they're going to make that all-in offensive push. And is it going to be too little too late? We're already at 12% dampening. Things are starting to fall apart here for Method Orange just a little bit. Wealthy Man gets gripped in. Ring of Peace used by Trill, but unfortunately failed. Wealthy Man can just walk out of that quite easily. Cubsy in a great position to heal. Paralysis was used, but with Wealthy Man kiting away, Snuts is free casted damage. Silence on to Sea-Doo. Mez could be in some trouble. Icebound Fortitude forced out. Now Method Orange once again is on the run.
That's one major objective, and Mez is more and more the target deeper into dampening. So not having that Icebound Fortitude for 3 minutes is crucial for the Super Frogs to find victory. Cubsy's got him in checkmate. They can't stop him from drinking. If they go to midfield, they'll just fall over and die. So this is great map selection, great strategy employed by the Super Frogs. Method Orange need brute force. They need the power of Zug Zug if they're going to find victory here against the Super Frogs. Otherwise, they're likely to just be rotted down and wither and fall before the power of Snuts' Shadow Priest.
I mean, that could definitely happen, but so far they have managed to stay healthy. The only problem is when they grip in Wealthy Man for these attempts, they don't have grip to take him back after he blinks. So Wealthy Man, if he survives the stun, he's able to easily blink away. Good pressure here now into Mez. Silence on Sea-Doo. Mez in a little bit of trouble. Has to activate the anti-magic shell. Snuts moves in. He's looking for a fear. Super Frogs, they want to close out this game. This is match point for Method Orange. They need to survive. Mez line of sighting should be able to. Sea-Doo in a polymorph. Once again, Sea-Doo, he's playing relentless, so he never has a trinket. Now making a swap. Mez backs him up with the anti-magic zone. Nice grounding totem, soaks up one of those Gladiator's Maledicts. Sea-Doo's been doing a great job with that so far in this match, but he has to play catch-up. Trill and Mez both rotting down.
Yeah, that Shadowy Apparitions build that Snuts is running is really tearing in. Look at all 3 targets of Sea-Doo's team just rotting down. Sea-Doo connects a couple of big heals with that Ascendance. It's not even stabilizing Mez, though. This is very unfortunate. Sea-Doo was relying on that Ascendance. It's not topping the team. Dampening might be too high. Silent stun combo. This could be it. Mez in trouble. Ducks around the corner. Catches a Death Strike off that Shadow Fiend. Good awareness on Mez's part. Healing Tide totem now burned through, so with Ascendance and Healing Tide out of the way, those are the major healing mechanics the Restoration Shaman can use against the Shadow Priest. He doesn't have those for 3 more minutes. We're already at 25% dampening, and if I'm Sea-Doo, I'm shaking.
I'm definitely shaking. Now Trill caught into a bash. Interrupt on Sea-Doo. Nice counterspell snuck in there by Wealthy Man. Now a Cyclone secured on Sea-Doo. Trill has to run away. Touch of Karma was forced out. Sea-Doo gonna have to play catch up. Mez caught in the middle of the map. Unfortunately, looking to run away with that anti-magic shell, but Super Frogs, they're feeling a lot more comfortable in this matchup to push in, get a little bit aggressive. Snuts not feeling too afraid. He's been moving in, getting fears, psychic horrors, silences, but Method Orange might be able to punish that aggressiveness.
Sea-Doo polymorph. Sea-Doo gets bursted, or Snuts gets bursted. Fades, lands a Psychic Scream. Good crowd control. Trill could be in trouble. Dips low, gets Ursul's Vortex back into the fight. Trill's so low on health, diffuse magic. The only thing keeping him alive. Spearling Totem, but Mez's Frost Nova with 1 each outside of it. They're not going to get Mez's health on that. That Frost Nova was perfect. Sea-Doo gets Cyclone, he's still low on health. No big healing cooldowns for another 2 minutes. Sea-Doo's getting rotted down. Wealthy Man looks to snipe him. Snuts is being pressured as well. Definitely blows being exchanged on both sides here, but with 3 members rotting down. Another minute and 20 seconds on that Ascendance, and Snuts is ready to just close this out.
Yeah, Cubsy's sitting down for a drink, wants to secure that mana lead. Interrupt on Sea-Doo. Wealthy Man and Snuts move in. Mez and Trill trying to find some pressure here onto Snuts as Method Orange is falling behind. Is Super Frogs going to be able to do it? Claim the 3rd cup out of 4 in North America. So much pressure, so much damage. Silence on Sea-Doo. Bash on Trill. Trill has no defensive left. He's forced to Transcendence away. Now Mez rotting down. Wealthy Man flicks in, looking to close out the game. Anti-magic zone, but now Sea-Doo, how is he going to recover his team's health?
Snuts is in void form. There is no light at the end of the tunnel for Sea-Doo. This might be a triple kill for the Super Frogs if they can keep their damage going a tad bit longer. Sea-Doo gets polymorphed. Wealthy Man looks to carry. Snuts gets bursted suddenly in a surprise attack. Dispersion exchanges. He's going to survive. Trill now has cooldowns. Mez now has cooldowns. Maybe they can make it out alive. Maybe that polymorph was a mistake. It healed Sea-Doo back to full health for free, and they didn't get a kill with it. Now Sea-Doo is starting to stabilize. 17 more seconds to his Ascendance. If he can get a clean reset, Snuts has no Gladiator's Medallion. If he gets bursted in a stun, he's not going to be able to void shift. There's 20 seconds until that Iron Bark. Sea-Doo needs to keep him going just a tad bit longer. They stun up Snuts. They burst him. They need a bit more damage than this. Doesn't look like they've got it. Snuts has got that Vampiric Embrace. Silent stun combo. Trill in trouble as Wealthy Man combos out. Trill stays alive for a couple more seconds. Ducks around the corner with that touch of Karma, holding on by a thread. Mez is now left in midfield. He's taking huge hits, trying to get back behind the pillar, but Ursul's Vortex, he's able to immune it with Death's Advance. Desperately trying to avoid line of sight, but Wealthy Man's right there with a triple frozen orb. Snuts has got him cornered on the other side. They grip Snuts in. It's do or die for Method Orange.
Triple fear from Snuts. Mez, nothing left in the tank. How is Sea-Doo going to keep them alive?
That's it.
A big setup on the Snuts. Is he going to be able to get some void shift off? Might have to use it. Paralysis on Cubsy. He trinkets out with the Iron Bark. In the meantime, Trill getting low. Method Orange, do or die. off the mistake of Snuts not using that Void Shift. I cannot believe it.
They had nothing left. Method Orange going to be able to stay in this one. Zico, my question for you, was that a throw? Was that a throw?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Wait, what? How is that not a
Absolutely.
throw?
I think it's a little bit more powerful when Zico says it's a throw than when I say it's a throw. I just wanted to... It was a throw. Snuts had so much at his disposal to make sure that that doesn't happen, and now we're going to get to watch it again.
Okay, we need to have a slow motion action going on those final seconds. So here, Snuts has his Void Shift still available. Everything's looking good. So here, Snuts gets stunned up, and so does Cubsy. Cubsy does have his trinket for this as well. So everybody on the side of Super Frogs, they have their defense here. Cubsy's going to give him the Iron Bark, and this is the part that needs to be a bit slow mode. We see Snuts, he's going to go for a cast. Cubsy goes for a cast as well. Now, I'm pretty sure that this kick actually fades on Snuts before, and he still doesn't use his Void Shift. He can just Void Shift Cubsy right there. Maybe not, but either way, casting there and getting kicked, it's you can just use Void Shift on Cubsy, and that's the game.
Wow. All right, we got a series on our hands now. Method Orange refusing
I
to
really
go
can't
down.
believe it.
I mean, I can't either. I don't think many people in chat can believe it as well. The question is, when we do move throughout the rest of this series now, are we going to see Method Orange just stick to this comp?
Well,
Yes.
that was the win. Like, that was Super Frog's ace in the hole. Like, that was how they could have won the matchup very easily with that composition. Everything was going their way. It looked perfect. Now, there's really not many large maps left except potentially Mugambala.
Mugambala, Game 7.
Maybe.
It's not happening.
I mean, we've already seen crazier things inside of this
Do I get the
series,
title of
right?
prophet if it happens?
No, you don't.
Do I get to steal your title?
No, you don't.
What do you mean?
Regardless,
This is unfair.
Just taking a
It's
look
not.
at this series.
One correct
Unfair.
prediction doesn't make it fair to say it, okay?
They're ignoring you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about their predictions when we just had the craziest upset in the last few games. The fact that Method Orange has been able to hold on just shows the resilience of this team. It looked like the Super Frogs were going to be able to just completely stomp them.
Well, if there's one thing we know C2 Forward's giving all of his fans heart attacks in every single matchup that he plays. So them holding on by a thread, finding a win condition, that's something Method Orange consistently does. It's no surprise, but I have to say Super Frogs, they tripped on the finish line. It looked like everything was going their way. They played the matchup brilliantly, but at the end of the day, those sort of all-ins from the Windwalker Death Knight, these melee cleaves, those are the few seconds that really count. If you're messing up at 50% dampening, that's when things start snowballing out of control and you just throw away the game.
2% one way or the other. Definitely something that we've seen from Sea-Doo in the past. But now as we do start to look ahead to the rest of this series, there are still so many chances for Super Frogs to just take this, right?
Is Asherman's in the pool still?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Should be.
We're probably going to Asherman's then, and then now the question is, Super Frogs, what do you play? Do you play Mage Warlock? Do you play Shadow Priest Mage again? Do you play Ellie Mage? They have all of these different wizard comps. It's time to pick one and stick to it. Personally, I think the Shadow Mage looked really good compositionally, but it was a little bit of a problem there at the end with the execution. They still had some defensives to potentially throw out there before they were put in that situation, and that's the thing. One quick interrupt there from Trill, dampening gonna be super high as well. A lot of damage comes in. One cross kick from Maz on the healer. All of a sudden, you just fall, and that was your best map. Everything looked in their favor there. Against all odds, really, Method managed to win that one. And those are the kind of games as well that can cause a little bit of frustration from the side of Super Frogs. And those are also the kind of games that can be like, well, that's literally as bad as it gets and we won. Now, that builds up momentum, that gets everybody going on the team, that gets everybody talking, and that gets everything going for Method Orange. So if they win Asherman's, Method Orange might actually just win the entire thing.
Yeah, I think that it is important to note, and not many people have been in situations like this, competed in situations like this, or have access to talk to people that have been in scenarios like this. This seems like undeniably one of those places where you just maybe fall apart as a team. How do you think the Super Frogs are trying to keep everything together here?
Well, just like Zico said, you're in a situation where you're playing a very long match. You're winning basically the entire time. It just seems like you've got the enemy team in a chokehold. You're about to win the match, and then you mess up in those final moments when it really counts. You can't close out the game, and you end up losing when you have everything you need to survive. So that's got to be frustrating for them, but I got to say, I feel like Super Frogs, they are veteran players at this point. I don't really expect Tilt to get the better of them. They just need to shake it off, realize there was just a little bit of a mistake there. Unfortunate for them, but on this map, they still have a massive advantage. Method Orange, though, they got to be feeling really pumped up.
Oh, for sure. I think one of the things is yeah, you really do expect Super Frogs to be one of those teams that can handle that. But one of the reasons you do emphasize is just to really point out how crazy that win was from Method Orange. And now Ashmane's Fall, like Zico did say, is going to be the pick. Sid, do you think that we're going to see anything out of the ordinary as far as compositions are concerned for the Super Frogs on Ashmane's?
Just do it again and press Void Shift a little bit earlier. I mean, I think it's just,
but not too early.
Well, I think even if he did it, well, like, you probably have a 30% room for error at that point in the game, I think, for Void Shift, because as soon as you exchange your health, you're alive, and then they die because they can't stay out in the middle of the map anymore at that deep of dampening.
I think this is the high percentage play, but to build off what you guys are discussing here, I think it's not just Snuts' fault there. I mean, he should have pressed Void Shift and he shouldn't have gotten kicked there. He could have been more careful potentially with not casting, but let's not forget, Cubsy also got cross-kicked at the same time, so if one of them doesn't get kicked, Snuts gets enough time to get that Void Shift out, and it doesn't matter that he got kicked. And potentially, if Snuts was just, holding his global, and Cubsy gets kicked, he'll just know, okay, my healer is kicked, I'm going to Void Shift. So it's like, the fact that it happened to both of them there, that's what really just made that entire thing happen, I think. And that's off of the back of a good play from both of the DPS on Method Orange as well, that kind of forced out that mistake, but definitely also a lot of greed there. But you can't be just throwing away your Void Shift too soon either. So it's like, it's a hard thing to balance there. And in those high pressure situations, a split second decision like that, that's what can just decide an entire series.
I also think it's pretty obvious that a team of a lower caliber probably would have changed their composition after that. Super Frog's not going to fall into the trap. They know how strong this composition is against what Method Orange is bringing, and also when you have Ashmane's Fall, this is one of those maps that you really do want to have another go at it with that Shadow Priest, with that Mage.
I mean, I think Super Frogs, they have the right composition. And Method Orange was forced to hide behind the pillar for most of the game. There was moments in the game where we saw Snuts and Wealthy Man getting very comfortable to push in. I really like what Wealthy Man was doing. I particularly like his build with the Lonely Winter. He's been having a lot of pressure with his Frostbolts. If they're ever going after Snuts, Wealthy Man has been able to get out these big shatter combos with the Frostbolt, Flurry, Ice Lance, where he's able to take a lot of Method Orange's health points away, and that basically forces them to go after Wealthy Man a little bit. And when Snuts is forced into his dispersion, he's feeling very vulnerable. Wealthy Man's not afraid to try to taunt Method Orange for the most part. Blink in, drop a Frozen Orb, drop a Blizzard, and say, you know what, here I am in your face, attack me instead of Snuts. And they were able to build a lot of pressure off of those plays.
Where's Trill's Monk been, man? Like, this is so great to see when we're actually getting a look at it right now, how fantastic it actually does look. This is a composition that has been so strong for them in the past, and now it is going to be back in the final hour. They need it one more time to carry them all of the way to a Game 7. Will it be enough, or will the Super Frogs be able to clean up some of their misplays and close this one out and take the 4th grand final of the year?
I can't believe that we're still here. I thought Cedar's team was going to get knocked clean out 4-0, but miraculously off the back of sick plays and what is probably the most fatiguing series we've seen in a while, Method Orange managed to pull off a miracle, but they have to do it again and then again after that. So I don't know if I'm sold yet. They still need more energy.
Yeah, we'll have to see what exactly Method Orange is going to switch up in this matchup. What are they going to do? It looks like sitting behind the pillar is probably important for them. These cleave setups, it's just not favorable for them to be in the open. They're susceptible to crowd control. If Cedar gets caught into a polymorph, into a fear, into a silence, that's an opportunity for Super Frogs to land a kill. Whereas for Mez and Trill, it's just so hard to have high uptime on a target and work through a lot of that Restoration Druid healing and try to start pulling out those defensive cooldowns. That's why we see a lot of these cleave compositions. They wait until a little bit more dampening when the Restoration Druid isn't as high, and they can start trading out a lot of those defensive cooldowns like the Diffuse Magic, Touch of Karma, Anti-Magic Shell. and they start getting favorable exchanges.
Snuts taking a couple hits here early on, but Cubsy running that Nourish build. Definitely want to be running that as a Druid when playing with 2 spellcasters. You can just stay max range. Also the balance affinity, which is interesting as you pointed out, can max range a lot of interrupts and crowd control. So the positioning of Super Frogs definitely fell apart at the end of the last game. If they were just very far apart from each other, Nourish would have probably been more than enough to keep Snuts alive. So Super Frogs need to stay on top of their positioning, deeper into dampening. Looks like they're trying to ramp up some pressure here onto Mez with that Frozen Orb placed down. And Method Orange can't afford to make any mistakes. Sea-Doo connects a couple big heals, but now Trill is low as well. Diffuse Magic, but Maledicts fly in on the Diffuse Magic. Sea-Doo's caught in Horrify. Trill portals out of line of sight, catches a couple Vivifies, Ring of Pieces Snuts away from himself. Sea-Doo is still in mid. They might bash Sea-Doo and go Sea-Doo. They bash Sea-Doo, Void Form activated. Anti-Magic Zone, gonna protect Sea-Doo. Might have been a bit of an overreaction though, because Wealthy Man held on to his Icy Veins. Now that defense won't be available to exchange for it.
Yeah, Double Fear by Snuts as he gets gripped behind the pillar. Really the main focus point in this matchup, and where we saw Super Frogs fall in the last game is they were able to get through the dispersion, get through the fade of Snuts, and then get an interrupt and avoid him using that life shift and that void shift, which is basically a life swap at any point with that void shift. It's a long cooldown. He can exchange his hit points for someone else. Snuts getting bursted down just a little bit, but in the midfield, Wealthy Man's going to be able to get a decent amount of counter pressure. Nice death grip on the Cubsy into a double leg sweep. Classic Windwalker Death Knight setup here as that forces out a dispersion on Snuts.
Clean play on Method Orange. See what they can get done. With Touch of Death available and no Gliders Medallion on 8. Unlikely that they have a stun, though, to really pair it together to kill Snuts. Looks like Method Orange are just going to happily sit at the pillar saying, yep, good job, guys. We got the dispersion. Let's just chill out for a second, not get ahead of ourselves. If we stay too far out, there's the grip into the stun. Can they KO? Is Trill going to go for the all-in? They've stolen a poly. I'm very surprised to not see Touch of Death from Trill in this advance. I mean, Mez got a full polymorph. Really not going to go for it there. Trill holds on to it. Maybe he wants to go on to Wealthy Man with no Gliders Medallion later on. That seemed like a good opportunity, didn't it, Ben?
I think Snuts might have still had his fade. So if he touches death and Snuts fades it, it's basically a waste. So they have to sort of get through the fade as well as the dispersion, or basically have Snuts with no trinket. And that's really where they want to push with that Touch of Death. But maybe they could have forced it out. Snuts did end up fading to escape. And I think that's one thing Snuts has been doing well, is whenever he is in a little bit of trouble, you can use that fade to create some space. It gives you a little bit of a speed boost. You can move away quickly, and it forces Mez and Trill to chase in the open.
Yeah, definitely will be the case. Mana even at this point between the Super Frogs and Method Orange as Method Orange look to do the impossible and reverse sweep 4 in a row against the Super Frogs in the grand finals of the North American Cup number 4. They've had a long road to make it back here for a rematch against the Super Frogs. Can they do it is now the question. If Super Frogs manage to win this, they really assert dominance in the North American region in terms of points. They will significantly pass the boys, having already broken their tie and qualified to the spring finals. Method Orange have not earned enough points to safely say that they are in the same boat. So I would say there's more on the line in the short term for Method Orange to win this. Pre-tremor on that Psychic Scream. Nice play by Sea-Doo. Double interrupt. Really sick setup here by Method Orange.
Yeah, Snuts in a lot of trouble. Forced to use that Fire Blood Racial as he's Titan in the middle of the map. He has to get a Dispel. Maledicts flying in from Method Orange. One thing I gotta say is Method Orange, they've been making really great pushes with these Maledicts, and Snuts could be in a little trouble. Does have Dispersion in the Void Shift, but Cubsy's gonna find the healing that he needs to keep him nice and stable in this matchup. Good job by Wealthy Man finding the polymorphs on Sea-Doo. Some decent damage on Mez. Now Method Orange, they might be looking to retreat, but no, they're pushing forward. They're just going to be attacking into Thorns. They don't care. They want to force out the dispersion on Snuts. They might be able to get it right here, right now.
Nice wind shear. Sea-Doo really carrying aggressively here. If you can interrupt Nourish, you definitely put the Druid behind, but Sea-Doo has to overextend and position in a really awkward and risky spot to be able to do that. It's managed to at least bank them some momentum, but now potentially punished by Wealthy Man as he sits through a polymorph. Trill in trouble around the corner on match point. Sea-Doo's trying to cross the distance. He walks into a Psychic Scream. No Tremor Totem. Trill in trouble. If Wealthy Man can get over there and finish him, Anti-Magic Zone. Trill runs around the corner. They stun Wealthy Man, but Sea-Doo is still so far away. Healing Tide Totem around the corner, healing his team, but now silenced. Polymorph DR, full polymorph. Mez and Trill still in a 3v2. Just holding on to dear life at this point, together around the corner. Managed to hold out.
Yeah, Icy Vein's going to be used by Wealthy Man as he wants to keep up the aggression that they found, but unfortunately, Method Orange has completely recovered. In those moments, Cubsy was just throwing in Solar Wraths, trying to take down Trill, and it was such a close call. I think he threw in like 8 in a row or something like that, so that little bit of extra damage Cubsy Man is able to use with the extra range from the Moonkin Affinity. Definitely going to be important in this matchup for them, and I don't think he's ever revealing the fact that he is the Moonkin Affinity. He's never going in the Moonkin form, so Method Orange can never really be sure that he doesn't have the Guardian Affinity, and I really like that from Cubsy.
Sidu had to expend his main area of effect recovery mechanics, so Healing Tide, Totem, and Ascendance. He doesn't have those for slightly less than 3 minutes at this point, so any Frozen Orb damage, any Void Form damage on 3 targets will have to be power healed through from Sidu, and with dampening in the game, that may not even be possible. Super Frogs set themselves up well strategically in the last match as well as this one. They just need to focus on their positioning later into the fight so that they're not stacked up for crowd control, exchange their cooldowns, and then overwhelm Method Orange. And Super Frogs should be able to take this. Can Sidu manage to do it? Can he manage to pull off the upset? They're just hanging on to dear life at this point, looking for any opportunities that expose themselves. Snuts gets gripped in and bursted down. They interrupt Wealthy Man on his support. Huge damage actually following up, but a Swift Mend, is that going to be enough? They really need to try and get an Iron Bark with this push. They're spending a lot of time in midfield to go for it. Now Sidu is crowd controlled. Trill gets bursted. Gladiator's Maledict plays. Sidu dispels it. Another one in from Wealthy Man. Diffuse Magic removes that. No third attempt. Snuts reposition, but Sidu gets counterspelled. Wealthy Man trying to end this. Trill, if he uses Touch of Karma on the mage, can ice block it.
Uh-oh.
Trill's able to recover, but now they've left Mez behind. He's trying to make it back to the team.
Yeah, manages to do so, and once again, Method Orange on a defensive position, or in a defensive position behind this pillar. Snuts didn't have to use anything in that exchange, though. Super Frogs managed to greet it out. Cubsy didn't even trade out his Iron Bark, so they're going to be feeling completely healthy. Once again, Method Orange going to be moving in, but this time, Trill doesn't have the luxury of having that diffuse magic, unfortunately for him. Method Orange just crossing the map to this other pillar. They want to take advantage of this larger pillar to grip Snuts out of line of sight, putting out a significant amount of damage. Capacitor stun onto Snuts out of the leg sweep. Ring of Peace gets used, denying Snuts to retreat to Cubsy. Cubsy in a great spot to easily heal up Snuts. Position very far away with the extra range on his abilities from that balance affinity. I'm curious, Sid, how do you feel like that's paying off?
I mean, Feral Affinity would be maybe a bit of extra damage to end the game. It doesn't seem like Guardian Affinity is necessary, so it's more of a stall-based tactic to go with the Balance Affinity and max range crowd control and add some extra damage and drink safely as well. So it's definitely the safer pick overall. I just would prefer to see Feral Affinity because it's fun to watch Feral Affinity and watch the rest of Druid run around trying to kill people, but Cubsy obviously in a tournament setting wants to take the lowest potential risk if he can to find victory. Crowd control initiated by Method Orange, but also on the side of the Super Frogs. Snuts gets bursted. Can't afford to throw. If they lose on Ashamains, they've then lost both of their best maps.
Yeah, and that's going to be devastating for Snuts. Activating Vampiric Embrace as well as his Void Form, getting a lot of additional healing on himself, helping Cubsy out quite a bit. Snuts now in a great position to get some damage out onto Sidu, Mez, and Trill. Wealthy Man on the other side of the pillar. Blizzard has been dropped down as well as the Frozen Orb. Snuts gets gripped in once again. Cubsy might have to play catch up here. He does have Thorns. He will activate it, trying to just force Method Orange to run away. They don't want to be attacking into that Thorn. Sidu doesn't want to expend the amount of mana he really needs to in order to get rid of that buff. That's going to allow Snuts to do additional damage to Trill and Mez every time they attack. Now that that's faded, Mez and Trill going to be pushing in, and Trill still has a lot of his defensive cooldowns available. Getting low, though. This is dangerous for Trill. He's trying to heal himself up. He's going to be activating the Fortifying Brew, but Snuts in a great position, running away from the pillar once again. Now Mez left all alone, looking to run away. Gets Tiger's Lust, I believe, from Trill to retreat back to the pillar.
We are in 33% dampening of a nail biter grand final. If you're just tuning in, you definitely want to let your friends know. Join in on this. Maybe with less nail biting, it's kind of gross. Mez gets bursted down. Trill's trying to push for a big cooldown. Touch of Death activated. If they can get a dispersion with this, it would be critical. Maybe just get a kill. Huge damage. Snuts fades. Denies it for now. Nourish. Cubsy needs to be careful. Sidu's crossing the map to wind shear him. Sidu's ready and waiting, but he gets polymorphed and clotheslined by Wealthy Man. Now Mez is exposed in midfield, but they activated the Earthen Wall Totem just before that push. Mez is leaving the safety of that Earthen Wall Totem. This is very... The silence dispels the anti-magic shield. He has to trinket to getting access to its defense. He's still low on health. Mez throwing the game a bit there by leaving the defense of that Earthen Wall Totem prematurely. Sidu has to give up on the push and reposition.
Yeah, but Snot still with Dispersion, still with Void Shift. Mez getting low. Super Frogs looking to close out this game. Mez still has the anti-magic zone. He's not trading it out. Greedy times for Method Orange as Sidu finally connects the Spirit Link. Now into a full polymorph. Mez into a Psychic Horror. Do the Super Frogs have the damage? Flurry connects from Wealthy Man onto Mez. Now Mez activating the anti-magic zone, tanking out a lot of this damage, looking to line of sight, but Method Orange in that exchange basically traded out everything, and Mez is such a vulnerable target, it is going to be difficult for them to really move in.
I mean, Method Orange were in the same position just a game ago, so I don't want to count them out just yet, but this should be the Super Frog series. Can Method Orange manage to do it? They win Sheer Cubsy on the heel. Sidu trying to hit this, but he gets Psychic Screamed. Mez is now alone. Anti-magic shield soaks up some hits. Trill is Ursul's Vortex in midfield. He's going to get a blasting. Wealthy Man's repositioned around the corner, blinking right on top of Method Orange, trying to get a polymorph. Bold moves by Wealthy Man, but when you're 2 blocks ahead, this much momentum, I don't really blame Wealthy Man. He's still got a game to go away. He definitely needs to be a bit more aggressive if he wants to close this out. Mez and Trill both under fire. No area of effect healing for some time. Touch of Karma available. Has to trade immediately as he is stunned up, but manages to stay alive. Maledics are flying in. Sidu tries to reposition. Everyone on his team is just dead, and I feel like I say that so many times, and they still manage to win, Ben.
Yeah, they're still all alive at this point, but Snuts has been so much more greedy with his Dispersion in this matchup. He's been holding on to his Trinket, still has the Void Shift. He does not want to throw away this game, playing very, very patiently. Wealthy Ban has been the main man on the team to push in and get aggressive on Method Orange. Mez falling a little bit behind, with Snuts not being a very vulnerable target. This is difficult for Method Orange, as he is the main kill opportunity for them in this matchup. Earthen Wall Totem gets dropped down to sort of soak up the Blizzard and Frozen Orb. Mez in midfield, incapacitate onto Cubsy, Touch of Death committed on Snuts. Now using the Dispersion, he's going to be avoiding a lot of that incoming damage. Now Mez on the run with the polymorph on Sidu. Method Orange, I don't know if what it takes to really close out this game at this point.
Trill gets bursted. Oh no! Fuse it. Basically no health. He's stuck in midfield. Wealthy Man is blasting. He ports. That Glyrus Maledict soaking all the heals. Wealthy Man blinks in. Wealthy Man has just had enough of this. Just die, Method Orange at this point. They're just holding on to dear life, but refuse to ultimately go down. Wealthy Man now overextended Temporal Shield. Wealthy Man's just bouncing, pressing Iceland, saying please end. Anti-magic zone denies the kill again for just a few more seconds. Can they live to that ascendance? There's nothing left. Ray of Frost fully channeled, and Super Frogs finally close it out 4-2 against Method Orange.
Method Orange refuse to go down there. A beautiful series, but ultimately it is going to be Super Frogs who take this one, Seiko.
Yeah, and I really like the adaptation here. You had Snuts playing a lot more careful. You had Cubsy playing completely on max range, except for a couple of moments when Trill really overextended. He came in and assisted with the basher. He wasn't playing overly cautious, but he was making sure that he never really overextended himself. I like that adaptation as well with the Moonkin affinity. They just make sure that they play safe, and when dampening gets high enough, Wealthy Man is going to be able to shred through, and that's the bash I was talking about there from Cubsy. He's keeping his distance, making sure that he can keep Wealthy Man going essentially without risking his positioning too much. Wealthy Man though did a great job here as well, pushing in, taking the aggro, just activating Temporal Shield, pushing him behind the pillar, dropping the orb, dropping the Blizzard. Snuts on one side, Wealthy Man on the other side, and Cubsy of course being able to back them up with the Iron Bark, doing a phenomenal job. Snuts as well made sure to save his Trinket with his Void Shift the entirety of this game, so that could never be a factor again where he gets stunned and then he doesn't know if he should greet it or not and be kind of put in that awkward situation.
Now, Ven, you predicted that it was going to be 4-2. Did you, in any inkling in your mind, did you think this series was going to look like this?
I actually didn't. Honestly, Super Frogs really impressed me with the fact that they could bring in this Mage Lock and Restoration Druid. This is actually a composition I used to run with Snuts back in the day. Obviously, he's not being implemented here in this particular matchup, but I really like what Chanimals and Wealthy Man have been doing. Wealthy Man impressed me a lot in this matchup. For me, he's probably the MVP of this tournament, just the way he was able to get aggressive, the build he was able to implement, the pressure he was able to generate for his team. It was just really, really impressive.
It was a beautiful series to watch. It was a beautiful tournament to watch, all in all, as we do look at how the teams even got here in the first place. And you have to give it up to Method Orange. They had one really tough problem, and that was taking down Never Lucky. Never Lucky was the team that knocked them down. They figure out a way to do that. They get their rematch in the grand finals, but it was Super Frogs who figured out the composition to win all of North America. And as we take a look at EU as well, it was a little while ago, but Wildcard Gaming took Method Black down 7 times in a row. There was one brief series where Method Black plays against the Chalky Milkmen and take them down, but Wildcard Gaming on absolute fire. We're going to see that as well here on our standings. And there's one interesting thing that I do want to point out before we hear everything from our analysts. As you can see, there's a tie currently for 4th place. So let's say that this actually does keep on happening. We see this tie all the way at the end of Cup 6. What would happen is there would be a tiebreaker series for Uno.1